Conservation Commission meeting for April 20th, 2023. It's 6:30. We are in the Town Hall, Veterans Hall, on the second floor if you'd like to join us, 308 Main. Conservation Commission will hold this meeting in person with an option for virtual attendance. In-person attendance will be at the meeting location listed above. So that's what we're at. Okay. For quorum,
Eric Gaspar, present.
Roy?
Ted Winglass.
Roy Bishop, present.
Ted? Okay, and Ed Goodwin present. Guess we got that in.
You want to do the opening hearing and stuff, read that?
Sure.
Is that done?
In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area, in accordance with the Mass Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to opening the first hearing for each project, the applicant is submit proof of notification to all abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
Carson Steuben has just joined us, so we are have full attendance. Becky, do you want to go to any?
Yeah, we have a few minutes before the first public hearing, so we have a few wetland decisions on here. One is an extension request number 12 on here. It's 24 Hamilton Road. It's in the order of conditions. They are requesting extensions for DEP file number 300-739. This is the Hamilton Rod and Gun Club.
Okay.
This is for the treatment of their private ponds on here. They're asking for a 3-year extension. I did talk to them. This is one of those older permits, and like we had done with the other lakes, it's coming up soon. It's time for them to start closing these out and filing new notice of intents for the new management plans. So for this, I would recommend, it's going to expire this year, giving them one more extension, and then the same thing we did with the other ponds, is just letting them know that they need to work towards that new order of conditions moving forward. So I'd recommend giving them the 3-year extension as they requested with that language.
2-year extension?
Yeah.
All right. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Well, Ted, anything? Roy, anything?
No, sir.
Nothing.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd
Sorry.
like to make a motion with regards to DEP file number 300-739 that we authorize a 3-year extension as requested.
Do I have a second? Second. Carson, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Perfect.
Ted
In favor.
Ted?
Winglass in favor.
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Okay. Where to from there, Becky?
Well, we have 1 minute, so we'll tackle one more on here. We have number 13 on here. It's 108 Westwood Drive. It's a request for a certificate of compliance. DP file number 300-1128. This was a landscaping project along Cedar Lake. Work's been completed. We did do an inspection out there. I have no concerns with the project. It wasn't an engineered plan, so we don't need the letter of substantial compliance from an engineer. Recommend issuance of a complete certificate of compliance, and they have perpetual conditions, special conditions 32 through 34.
32 and 34, huh? Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion with regards to DEP file number 300-1128 that we issue a certificate of compliance with the special perpetual conditions 32, 33, and 34.
All right. Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted? No, Ted?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Yeah, Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right? You want to go to?
Yep. We can do our first public hearing now.
Yep. All right. All right, welcome to the 72 Farquhar Road, request for determination of applicability, removal of a grove of diseased red pines. Nick Iozzo, representative, not available. Come on up, gentlemen.
All right, just for the record, we do have proof of legal ad and a butter notification. Nick, if you just want to give a quick summary of the project to start?
So basically, we have a
Give your name, Nick.
Nick Iozzo, 72 Farquhar Road. So we are approaching the board to take down more of the red pine trees. We believe they are diseased with that red scale pine. So we're looking for 75 feet off of any outbuildings, which is basically just off the garage for right now. Looking for approval to take those down and continue to remove them.
Okay.
Right, so we did a site visit out there, some of the members were able to go out there. Nick did get permission before to remove some out there. Similar to with the area he already removed, there's a good amount of understory growth that's been coming up with these trees that have been declining over time. That it doesn't appear that there would be a need to do any replacements out there. I think that would be successful. He's not planning on converting that area. He's not planning on stumping or removing the roots of the trees either, so I think that's a good point of the project. One of the things we talked about there a little bit is if he had a tree company come in, if there was some way to maybe cut the trees and maybe leave part of the trunks, if possible. It's good for wildlife habitat, especially as those start to die for woodpeckers and other things. It'd be nice to see that, and that might help minimize some of that disturbance on the ground too. So we could add that in if it's a possibility. So I would recommend moving forward and issuing a determination for approval of his request. It would be a negative number 3. Conditions, we just do some standard pre-work and sign-off conditions for that. Let us know when you're starting work, when you're done, to come out and close that out, inspect it. And then just what I mentioned there, if it's possible, to maybe leave parts of the trunks of those trees for the future.
Yeah.
And then I will be a positive 2B as well. We're not doing a resource area approval, and a positive 5, which is you're subject to the local bylaw with the same conditions that we noted before. So a lot of technical stuff there.
All right. Any comments?
None. I was on site. I think it's a good project.
Yeah. Ted, anything? Roy, anything? No?
I didn't get the site walk, so I'm not that familiar, but I know the property and I understand what the applicant's asking for, so I don't have a problem with it.
All right, do I have a
Yeah,
motion?
no issue, no issue.
Excuse me?
It was Roy. He said no issue.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Do we want to just check with the public?
Anybody in the public like to speak on this? No? Okay.
Right. Seeing that, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Ted?
Winglass in favor.
Roy
Roy?
Bishop in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
With regards to 72 Farquhar Road, I would recommend that we issue a determination of applicability of a negative number 3 with the appropriate conditions as laid out by the agent, a positive 2B, and a positive number 5.
Any questions? Anybody? You seconded it?
Second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, guys.
Two comments. I want to thank the Conservation Commission for going out and looking on site because it makes a big difference, I think. I also want to thank you for helping Nick fill out the paperwork. That paperwork is just a little bit intimidating for the novice, so thank you very much for your help in putting that paperwork together.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
And that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, can we arrange a
Tell you, Nick,
pickup for
be-
your permit, or do we need to have it mailed?
I can pick it up.
Okay, I'll have it ready for you Monday.
Otherwise, it's certified mail, so you gotta go to the post office and get it if you're not home.
up.
Yeah.
Monday, I'll give you a call.
All right, cool. Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Nice to see
Thank
you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Be careful, Nick, that's the only thing. Becky, you got some more?
Yep, yeah, we have a few minutes before the next public hearing. So we can go to number 14 on here.
All right.
This is another request for a certificate of compliance.
Yeah.
It is for 300 Clark Road Extension, DEP file number 300-1008. This was a small house addition project that was permitted. We did a site inspection. We got a letter of substantial compliance and an as-built plan from the engineer. I have no concerns with it. I recommend issuing a complete certificate of compliance. They did have perpetual conditions in there noted as special conditions 15 through 18, 25, and 26.
All right. Any discussion?
No. I'd like to make a motion with regards to DEP file number 300-1008, that we issue a certificate of compliance with the special conditions 15 through 18, 25, and 26.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ted?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, Beck?
Okay, we have a few more minutes here. So number 15, also 300 Clark Road Extension. This certificate of compliance request was for DEP file number 300-136. So this was a much older permit that was caught. It's a real estate transaction, so the lawyers found this one. This project was never completed. It was actually the house addition that was proposed, in which we just, with that 1008 that we just did, they had proposed doing the same thing in the 80s and never did it. And, you know, so they filed again in the future to do that. So it was just we would issue an invalid COC. The work never commenced for that project.
All right, so any discussion?
My only question is, was the original one a good project?
It was the same
I don't
exact
think it's gonna matter.
project, except they needed to put a septic in, and now it was on town sewer, so they.
It's a better project. You improved it, yeah. All right, with regards to DEP file number 300-136, I'd like to make a motion to issue an invalid certificate of compliance.
Carson, a second?
Yeah.
Discussion? Anyone? Hearing none? All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed? Yep. And
Ted
Ed?
Winglass in favor.
Yep. In favor. All right, Beck? We'll be back on schedule?
Yeah, we're back on schedule, yep.
We are now at 221 Fisk Hill Road, request for determination of applicability for a housing addition. The owner is Jerry, the owners are Jerry and Suzanne Barinella, represented the same. What, are they on?
Yep, so we do have the property owners online here.
Jerry.
They're out of state, hopefully in nice weather down there. So I'll give a quick intro of the project, and if there's anything you guys want to add afterwards. Do any of the members want me to pull up the plan for this, or
I'm fine.
you're okay? Everyone saw it in the packet and site visit?
Would they want to have it on the screen?
Does anyone, Ted, Roy, Jerry, do you want me to pull up the plan on the screen here?
I'd like to see it.
Okay, yep, we can do that. One is in the ERD.
Complete, yeah.
Yeah.
When you scroll, wait,
My bandaged finger doesn't want to work for. Wrong way. One more.
No setback?
Yeah, no, I just gotta share the screen now. All right, so we got the plan up here. So, just for the record, we have proof of legal ad and a butter notification. This project, all the work is located within the existing developed single-family house. To the left of the screen is, to the left of the screen is where we have resource areas, on an adjacent parcel here. And what they're proposing to do, you can see on here in the front of the house, they have a small house addition, and then on the right side of the house, furthest from the resource area, they have a bigger house addition proposed there. We did do a site visit out there, took a look at this. There will be some excavation required for the larger part of the house addition, and they do propose to keep those spoils on site to do some regrading of the side yard over there, which we talked about on site. So based off of this project, I recommend that we can move forward with this with a determination. It would be a positive number 5. This project would be subject to our local bylaw, and it would recommend adding some conditions to this. We would have erosion controls installed throughout the work. Due to the proximity of how far it is from resource area, I think a straw wattle will be sufficient here. And then also, we would add our standard pre-work and sign-off conditions. It would also be a positive 2B. We wouldn't add, there's no resource area approval that would be granted with this determination. And then this one would be a negative number 5. The scope of this project, part of this project would be outside of, we can tell from aerial photos and whatnot that it's clearly outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So that wouldn't be subject to it, but the small house addition in the front would be. But it actually would be exempt under the act. So that would be a negative number 5 versus the negative number 3 that we usually do.
Okay.
Jerry, is there anything you want to add about the project here?
No, that's just, I think you covered all the bases. Just all the spoils are gonna stay on site, like you said. It's a full basement on the right side and then a frost wall in the front. I think that'll be.
All right. Any comments from
I was on site. I think it's a good project.
the, anybody in the audience like to speak to this project?
Ask Ted and Roy, or they got Ted and Roy?
I just wanted to get a glimpse of it, and I appreciate you bringing that up, and that looks like a nice little project.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted Winglass in favor.
All right. Another motion?
And with regards to the request for determination of applicability at 221 Fisk Hill Road, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a determination of a positive number 5 with the conditions, a positive 2B, and then a negative number 5.
Second.
Second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ted?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, thank you very much. Jerry?
Thank you, Jerry. Enjoy your vacation.
Sorry we interrupted you, Jerry, wherever you are.
I'm going to happy hour now.
Attaboy.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Becky, do we have anything?
Yep, yeah, we have a few more things, yep.
We're gonna have to slow down and have an argument or something.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sure that will
Few
happen
things
later.
here.
Being the
Come
head
on.
thing is really,
We're not used to this.
Way to the left.
So we can kind of continue down the administrative decision parts of our agenda here. So I don't know if you want to do committee updates, if there are any.
I can do community preservation if you want to.
Sure.
We haven't had a meeting. We're waiting to have a meeting. We have only one thing left, which is the Cedar Lake renovation that has to come before us one more time, before town meeting. So we're going to be pushing that in.
Oh, the rec area
Yeah.
renovation?
They didn't have detailed numbers when they came before us, so we sent them home to get some numbers.
Lakes is meeting right now.
No,
They canceled it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, well,
Yeah.
You still miss them.
I still missed it. I missed it regardless. Okay, well, Lakes canceled their meeting then.
Trails will probably be on our next agenda. They might be coming in to kind of go over the scope of work they're looking to do this coming year. So I had a quick conversation with Brandon last week about that. So they weren't sure if they're going to try to come in for this one or the next one. So we should have that on there. It won't be actual, like, applications at this point. It's just, you know, an overview of the work they're going to be working on this year. They're planning to,
Yeah.
and getting some permits moving forward for that, so.
All right.
I know you didn't have a lakes meeting, but just an update. They've had a fish kill on Cedar Lake. Yeah, a lot of chatter on social media about that. We did, when it was first reported, we did reach out to, there's a fish kill hotline with Fish and Wildlife. I did speak to a biologist over there. I mean, typically, you do see at this time of year, as the water temperatures start to warm, fish kills. And one of the signs that it could be just a normal fish kill that you see at this time of year is if it's, you know, typically the same species of fish or the same age class with the same species. And at that time, that's what was being reported. You know, with the really warm temperatures we had last weekend, there was some more fish killing. We know Cedar Lake's one of the more shallow lakes. But at this time, it appears, based off of what, you know, the information we've got from the biologist, it's probably a normal fish kill. I haven't had any reports on any of the other lakes, but those ones are significantly deeper, so a lot more cooler water there, I'd anticipate, so,
So that was at Cedar, right?
yeah.
I saw them on Big Elm, same thing, same
Oh.
size, too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Oh.
3 of them.
Yeah.
But, you know, I
What
wouldn't have
type of
noted
fish?
it other than the fact
Yeah.
that they were the same size.
What's that, Ted?
What type of fish?
Was it a particular species?
Sunfish.
Sunfish, Ted.
Yeah, Sunfish Lake,
Uh,
4-inch. You know, nothing,
gotcha.
All right.
Caught up.
Minutes?
You can go back.
do the minutes?
We're back on schedule here, so we can go to number 3 on the agenda here.
All right. Number 3, 73 Paradise Lane. SWB notice of intent, raise and rebuild. Applicant is Paul Johnson, representative is Lenny Jalbert. Request an OOC under the SWB.
Is it in his NOI? Oh. I'll let Lenny give an intro on the project here. Just for the record, we have legal ad and a butter notification receipt, and I'm just going to find the plan to pull up here for discussion.
This we didn't visit, right? Did we visit? Was this part of a site visit?
Yes, yep, we went to this one.
was
Yep. This was the one on Big Elm across the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, you all set?
Go ahead.
go ahead, Lenny.
Leonard Jalbert from Jalbert Engineering, representing the Johnsons for their property located at 73 Paradise Lane. This property, the construction that's going to take place is all outside of the 100-foot buffer zone within Big Elm itself. The work that's involved is still within the regulations, which are 200 feet. Therefore, what we're doing is we're doing this under the local bylaws rather than the state, so there's no DEP file number for the project in question.
Or you don't have, yeah.
The house itself is being removed, and in its place, there will be a log home put in on the property. The home itself will be moved in a westerly direction, centered on the lot itself, with a access driveway coming into the southeasterly side of the house, off of the existing access they have on Paradise Lane. The house itself is actually serviced with municipal sewer and a private well. The private well that's on the lot will be utilized, and the existing sewer will be connected for the new home to the existing municipal sewer in the town itself on the property. There will be 3 trees that will be removed on the westerly side of the property, which are big pines which were marked on the field, which is basically on the most westerly portion of the house itself. Outside of that, the rest of the trees on the property are going to stay as is, and that the vegetation we have, that all disturbed material on the property would be loomed and seeded. So the impact on this thing basically is a plus, in that the house itself will be moved to conform to all zoning regulations within the town of Sturbridge. However, the lot itself is under the regulations that does not conform to zoning per se. Therefore, after the property is reviewed by the Conservation Commission, and assuming a order of conditions would be issued, we would have to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit because of the lot frontage and area. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, Becky?
Great, thanks, Lenny. We went out and did a site visit out there, it was staked out there, we were able to see everything. We did note one very, very dead tree by the road that was marked on there, so we would just modify it to say the 4 trees can be removed for that approval. One of the things that would have been more concern about this property, especially being across the lake, is runoff, especially with the kind of steeper slopes there. But the project, you guys incorporated some measures for that, so thank you for doing that. That's some of the things we look for, and I'm sure your engineer advised you of that. So happy to see those during construction and then long-term incorporated in the project. So I think that covers most of the concerns that I would have had with the project. So I would recommend, I think we can move forward with this project. I think they did a good job with it. Approving it, it would just be approved pursuant to our local bylaw because you're outside of the state jurisdiction. Issue the orders of conditions. With that, we have like standard pre-work and sign-off conditions, pre-construction meeting, things of that nature. We check our erosion controls, we'd add those in there. And then the spoil debris piles, would those be proposed to be moved directly off-site, or are they gonna be used on-site for any grading or anything?
The contours are going to be exactly as shown. The only excavation would be done is in the installation of the driveway going to the house. Then all the top and subsoil would be removed for the
Okay.
driveway.
Oh, perfect. And they probably-
Outside of that, it's staying within 1 footprint.
Okay, and that'd probably be loaded right off the
Right,
site?
yes.
Sure, we
And
could add a condition for that.
Right.
And then, you did have noted, did you have noted tree replacement on here? I think in your application, maybe you noted that you guys would plant some trees on there, so we could add that in as the
Correct.
condition. I think it was in the narrative part of there. And then, the stormwater measures, we usually just add like perpetual conditions to make sure that you, maintain those, whatever maintenance is needed in the future to keep them functioning properly. And then, we also do, a surety bond. It's either a deposit or an actual bond that's done, and at the end of the project, you have to get a certificate of compliance, and that would be released at that time, and that just checks off to make sure that the project has been completed correctly. So they usually add that on for new construction projects like this.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Eric, you got anything?
Other than the trees that were noted, the dead tree at the front and those three, do you expect any additional trees will be impacted, Lenny?
No. No, the other trees would stay as is.
Okay.
Those hemlocks on the westerly side are gonna stay?
Once again? Did you say
I
what?
said the hemlocks on the westerly side
Staying,
stay.
correct,
Okay.
right.
Carson?
Fine.
Ted?
I have no comment. Looks good.
Roy?
Looks good.
The previous septic system, there's a cap there. Has that been appropriately handled?
That was discontinued at the time when they connected it public
Was
sewer.
it appropriately discontinued?
I'd assume so, yes.
Can we check on that when we're excavating?
That would be done with the Board of Health at the time of issuing a building permit.
Okay, all right. Anybody in the audience? Down.
Well, there's a couple people on the phone, just in case. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor, Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed?
Ted Winglass in favor?
All right, great.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the project at 73 Paradise Lane under the Sturbridge Wetland bylaw with the agent's notes around the standard conditions, spoil debris, perpetual conditions, tree replacement as proposed, and also the surety bond.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed?
Ted Winglass in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
Thank you, folks.
Great, thank you.
Good project. Enjoy
Thank you
it.
for your time.
Time-wise,
Couple minutes.
Have a good night.
7:05.
Is anybody coming for the, oh,
Bye.
What do you got, Beck?
Yeah, do you want to do the minutes?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th, 2023.
second.
Second. Any discussion? For some reason, they didn't come up when for me. I don't know what I did. I saw that it was there, but didn't, click.
Did you go to the original one? Yeah? The
On
email?
the email?
Go on, yeah.
Huh. Open
Yeah,
file.
there were two on there. They were both Word documents, so they weren't like the usual. Usually we have PDFs
Yeah.
for things, but these,
All right,
yeah.
well, I'm gonna abstain.
Because you didn't look at them? Okay.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor. Yep, Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted?
Ted Winglass in favor?
Thank you.
And with regards to the minutes from March 30th, 2023, I'd like to make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Yep.
Look at that.
Ted Winglass in favor?
All right.
7:05.
We are,
Yep, we're on time here for the next hearing.
I tell you, we're gonna be,
I'm gonna play the lottery.
we're at 7:05, right?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. 159 Walker Pond Road, Wells State Park, notice of intent. Trail maintenance and accessibility upgrades, DEP file number, no number?
We have not received a file number yet, nope.
All right. Commonwealth of Mass, are we getting the applicant on the phone?
Yep, we have the representative online here, yep. Just for the record, we have receipt of legal ad. Due to the size of the property, a butter notification isn't required for doing it for the whole property. It would be within so many feet of the scope of the actual project, and there was no abutter. So in Sturbridge, we would do 200 feet because that's our buffer zone. So there was no butter notification requirements for that. We do have Kristen McDonough on here from SWCA, and I'll let her present the project. Does anyone want me to pull up the project plans? Kristen, you want me to pull those up?
Yeah, thank you. That would be great. I know there are several sheets.
Oh, that's fine.
Maybe. Okay.
All right. While I'm doing that, I'll let you get started if you like.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kristen McDonough. I'm a professional wetland scientist and certified wildlife biologist with SWCA Environmental Consultants, and I'm here representing the Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation, or DCR, who want to do some trail maintenance and improvements for accessibility and drainage improvements on the Mill Pond Trail at Wells State Park. Rebecca, I don't know if you have a topo or just some kind of site locus, or maybe if you have the plans pulled up, that will show the Mill Pond Loop Trail and the areas where we're proposing trail maintenance and improvements. So overall, the resource areas that are present along the trail are bank for intermittent stream and perennial stream. There's riverfront area to perennial stream. There are vegetated wetlands, both bordering and isolated. There are no vernal pools, and there is no bordering land subject to flooding. That works great, thank you. The USGS topographic map shows that area that says S2, S4 at the southern end of the site as not perennial. However, we're proposing the commission consider that perennial just based on the size. And you can see the bank full width, that blue polygon. I mean, it's wider than the stream at the north, which is S3. So we're proposing that both of those are perennial, and therefore pretty much the entire pond, Mill Pond Trail is in riverfront area. The maintenance work that's proposed by DCR includes, this is an existing trail. So there is some geogrid with stone dust on top of the geogrid for the existing trail tread. Some of the stone dust is worn thin, so DCR wants to just replace some of that thinning stone dust over the geogrid. There is some punch-in that we want to put, I don't know if I can annotate here, but right at that, can I annotate, do you know?
I don't think so with this.
Okay. Right at the southern end, see right before that orange polygon, just.
I can
it's really
jump
hard
to the
explain.
plans if you want, and then I can point out with my cursor, like that spot, if that's.
That might be best, and then I'll just explain what the proposed project
Yeah,
is.
And I can zoom in here.
Yeah, if you just zoom in. So there's a wetland crossing. See where that little finger of a wetland comes up off of the,
Maybe if I just start in one point here, it's just gonna take a second.
Now
Sure.
I got it.
Just a little slow.
plans are a little cumbersome. Yeah. But anyways, the trail crosses a wet area, and so we're proposing to put down punch-in to reduce soil compaction and trail braiding. So what happens is when a trail crosses a wet area, hikers tend to go around that wet area, which increases soil compaction and leads to trail braiding. So we're trying to encourage trail users to stay on the trail by putting down a punch-in, and that's going to go right over one of the wetland crossings. Yeah, thank you. That's exactly right there. And it's 6 feet long by 3 feet wide, so that will meet accessibility standards. There is a stream crossing, so if you go a little bit further to the northeast a little bit, Rebecca, it's crossing stream 3. There's an existing stream crossing right there, and what DCR wants to do is just basically put another punch in, or basically just cap it. So there is no impact to bank or land underwater or BVW. They're just gonna put basically a boardwalk right over the existing crossing. Yeah, exactly, right there. And again, that'll meet accessibility standards. The total temporary impacts associated with these trail improvements, which is only within the existing trail tread, totals 6,010 square feet. However, in addition to what they want to do within the existing trail tread, we're calling permanent impacts for 55 square feet. And that's all within riverfront and buffer zone for the bylaw. So the 55 square feet is a maximum extent. It's most likely going to be less than that, and that includes a 15 square foot wheelchair turnaround area at a steeper area of the trail. And that's just for, again, accessibility standards. So if somebody is in a wheelchair and they are climbing up that steeper slope, they can take a little bit of a rest. 15 square feet, everything's going to remain pervious. There's no new impervious surface area. It's just going to be a little bit of a widened bump out part of the trail. And then we're proposing 4 areas of drainage improvements where there's some existing trail erosion. That slope, kind of, if you look at this section of the trail here where there are some yellow outlines, is the trail kind of follows right along BBW and Streambank. And if you're heading kind of to the northwest, the right side of you is a steep slope. So runoff is just coming right down that slope. It's coming right down the trail, and it is potentially about to go into resource areas. So in order to protect adjacent resource areas, we're proposing 4 drain dips. Each one of those is a maximum of 10 square feet. It's probably going to be less. We're going to kind of spec that out in the field and use field materials to the maximum extent practical. But we estimate at a maximum, this will be a 55 square foot permanent impact to riverfront area and buffer zone relative to the bylaw. And then all of the rest of the trail improvements will be within the existing trail tread.
When is this going to happen?
We're actually still, so one of the side issues is this site is within estimated and priority habitat for rare species, and we haven't heard back from Natural Heritage yet. We have a couple of data sensitive rare species out there. So I'm sure Heritage will have conditions that they'll want us to adhere to, in addition to rare species protection plans. They wanted us to do this best case scenario during the winter, but since this will occur during the growing season, we will have to adhere to a rare species protection plan per Natural Heritage conditions. So this will hopefully happen in late May.
Becky, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Kristen and I had kind of gone back and forth a little bit previously. I had a couple questions about the project that she was able to answer. I think it's a good project. It's a trail improvement project. Like we said, we're still waiting on DEP file number and comments, and we're waiting for Natural Heritage comments, so we do have to continue it. I think I really like the boardwalks that they're using over those existing structures, which minimizes any direct resource area impact to the wetlands. I think that's a really good idea. They have an O&M plan that's included on maintenance on here, so I think they've done a well job with the improvements here, so I don't have any concerns. I think, like I said, we just have to wait, so we'll have to continue this out, and that way if we have any comments that we need to incorporate from Natural Heritage or DEP has any comments, get answers on those.
All right.
I don't know if anyone else has any.
Nope, I'm good.
Ted? Roy, any
No, it
comments?
looks good project and for the right reason.
That's good. Continuation?
Anyone on the public? We do have a couple people on GoTo here. Anyone want to comment on the project?
I want to comment, that was one of the nicest applications I've ever gotten since I've worked here.
Yes, it was a very well done application.
Very well thought out and makes my job very easy when
Great.
Good
I
job,
actually
Kristen.
I did share this with our Trails Committee because I thought it was something like really useful for them as they're starting to think about their planning, and what, you know, other agencies are doing with their trail projects, so.
Yep.
All right.
Great.
Like to
Great,
make a
thanks.
motion.
And we do
that
have Ellen Huffman from DCR on the line, so, you know, she's not really a member of the public.
Oh,
She's the applicant.
thanks.
I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing with regards to 159 Walker Pond Road at Wells State Park until May 11th.
Second.
Seconded by Carson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Carsten Stüber in favor?
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted?
Ted Winglass in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
You as well.
All right, now we are at 6 Birch Street. Request for determination of applicability. Removal of 3 trees. Becky, you want to continue this?
No, we have the property owner online here, so I'll just get started, and Joseph, if there's anything you want to add, I'll let you jump in there. So this is an RDA. We did have to postpone this from the last meeting for the legal ad requirement. They did satisfy the legal ad requirement and the abutter notification requirements. We did a site visit out here prior to our last meeting. What they're looking to do is to remove 3 large oak trees on the property. One is clearly dead. Another, one of the trees is causing damage to the house due to the proximity of it to their foundation. And additional oak tree is immediately adjacent to it, and it would have to come down in order to take the other tree down. So typically with these approvals, we don't do stump or root removal unless necessary. The only question I did have was, did you need to remove the root system that's near the house? Or was that proposed to stay? I don't know if you can answer that, if that matters for you guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure you guys can hear me right now, but thank you guys for taking the time to meet with me. The large tree that is over the house, the vines and everything, the roots are grown actually into the foundation. So we might have to do just that tree for the stump removal, just to stop the growth from going into the foundation.
Okay, and I think that's, it's not a no-go, it's just a matter of, do we need to maybe add some extra conditions in there, you know, for erosion during that time if they're taking those out? So that's something that we can just add a condition in there for. I think it makes sense that it probably will need to come out because they are impacting the foundation, so I don't see any concerns. I'll let the board, you know, move forward with their comments, but just my recommendation would be that you can issue the determination, a negative number 3 with conditions, standard pre-work and sign-off conditions. I'd add the no stump removal, except for that 1 tree. And as part of when we go out and do a pre-construction meeting, we can talk about the need for any temporary erosion controls during that process. It'd be a positive 2B, no resource area approval, and then a positive number 5, it's subject to the bylaw with the conditions noted above.
So I was not on site a couple weeks ago when you guys saw this. Are the replacements proposed sufficient for the lot conditions and
Thank you.
canopy being lost?
I didn't think to bring that up. So there are still a lot of mature trees on site, and I think the overall consensus looking at the property was that we wouldn't, in this situation, probably need to require that they do anything that would add a canopy. What they're proposing is more kind of screening for adjacent property, but there was a lot of additional oaks going down the property line closer to the lake. It felt like that was probably sufficient, so I don't think we need to do anything beyond what they're asking for, so.
These trees are between the house/trailer and the fence.
Yeah, okay.
On the border, so I don't think there'll be any loss.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all I had.
Anybody else? Any comments? Hearing none? Close the
All
public
right,
hearing.
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor?
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ted?
Ted Winglass in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
I'd like to make a motion with regards to 6 Birch Street that we issue a determination of a -3 with the agent's conditions, a positive 2B, and a positive 5 with the conditions noted above on the detailed agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor?
Ted?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Roy?
Yep, Roy Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
All right, you're all set. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
No
Have a good
problem.
night.
So we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule?
Yeah, it looks that way, huh?
Nice.
What are we gonna do for 5 minutes, Beck?
Go to the bathroom.
Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Carson's like, I got right out of my commute and ran right into this meeting, so, smart man.
Give you a minute.
Do we have people coming in for 16 and 17, Beck?
For what?
For 71 Paradise and 71, it's a 71 kind of night, I guess, for
I
whole
know,
business.
Yeah.
I think the answer is no and no.
No one's coming in for
So,
either.
yeah, so for number 16, we can, well, he's in there, the 70 Paradise Lane. I received an email from the property owners today that they weren't gonna be able to make it this evening, and that their engineer is working on, a revised plan for their drainage improvements. Part of their concern was what had been proposed wouldn't work because there's a water line, I guess, where drainage structure was proposed, so the engineer was gonna work on that. I did ask when that revised plan would be submitted, and they said within a few days. So if we wanna just continue this to the next meeting, it's kinda where we're at.
I mean, yeah, I guess, right? I mean, what else are we gonna do? Unless we wanna go nuclear, but I mean, I think that's probably fine. Give them another 3 weeks. What do you think, Ed? What's
What choice do
what's
we
3 weeks between friends, right?
Yeah.
So just so you know, and we'll obviously tell you, before the next meeting, but we will be moving back to, the center office building for our next meeting.
I miss the old barn.
I'm just getting into the habit.
I can't get used to these luxury digs that make me, have that champagne taste every time.
Do we wanna, can we ask Carson to, after the May 11th, can we go back? to
Oh, yeah, while we're waiting a few
Well,
minutes,
after
yeah.
graduation. There you go.
Yeah. So, right, Aaron, raised a good point, Carson's back. So we did, shift the meetings to 6:30 from 6 o'clock. Our next meeting is May 11th. After that, our next one is June 1st. Are we able to go back to the 6 o'clock with the school year wrapping up there for you?
May 11th.
Well, we'll do 6:30 for May 11th.
We probably could. On May
Okay.
11th, we could kind of classes, and we probably could go back May 11th, even at 6 o'clock. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I don't teach. My last class is May 4th.
Okay, so do you want to get back to us on that?
I'll get back to you.
Okay,
And
okay.
I can do that tomorrow, just check my schedule.
Okay, perfect, yep, we'll follow up with you on that. So regardless, June 1st, we will definitely anyways, so we'll start working towards that. The next meeting, I think I'd like to leave a little bit of time at the beginning before the public hearings. We have a lot of old business items that are going to be coming back. Potentially holding those first instead of keeping those to the end, because granted, tonight we're running on time, but sometimes we run pretty late, and we have those items kind of lingering to the end, if that's okay with the board.
So start the agenda at 6:30, but maybe start the meeting at 6, is what you're saying?
Yeah, if we can start at 6, then leave that time for,
Hearings will start.
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like is downtime. I don't care how you.
Oh, I know. Well, it's hard too, because, some of these, the RDAs are usually quicker, but not all of them. So we try to give, we went from the 15-minute hearing down to the 10-minute, because, right, if one gets continued, people don't give us information in time, and they decide to postpone,
What?
you start getting these gaps,
Yeah, right.
So, oh, yeah, 7:25.
We're on time.
Moving on.
All right. We are now on 7:25 PM. 55 Karen Road, request for determination of applicability, landscape improvements.
Oh, thank you. Yep.
Applicant is Denise
Perfect, that's what you
Jancy,
were talking about, yeah.
Representative Mike Vito,
Maybe
Landscape Evolution.
it's
Gentlemen?
late, but I just thought it, before we even have a discussion, talk to Denise, and she's okay with
Did we look at that?
not paving this
What?
back.
Did we have a site visit? for that?
Yeah, that's the one right on Cedar Lake.
The equivalent of
We
the issue.
went out to the front.
Square footage
They
we added.
dig up the, you remember,
Thought it was asked
just
about,
down the end.
Okay, yep, yep.
not waste time.
Yeah, no problem.
What would be thought process?
Just don't have it for.
Clean air we're talking about.
All right.
Thanks, Mike, appreciate it. Oh, thank you for remembering.
Yeah.
Appreciate
It's like
that.
we realized.
I forgot, you
Slightly
remembered.
revised plan we could talk about, the process, better order.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so just for the record, we have proof of legal ad in the butter notification. I'll let Mike go over the project. We did a site visit out there last week to take a look at this. It's a small patio project. There was some comments on the project, and we can have a discussion about that proposal, and it looks like the homeowners offered a few revisions to that patio project for you to take a look at here.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, I mean, nothing's changed in terms of the proposal, in terms of that existing patio. We still would like to make that a permeable paving area. And I guess in our site visit, there was a lot of talk about the expanded patio areas and whether that was a good idea or not. And just the balance of planting area versus paved area. And I was able to have a discussion with the homeowner, Denise Jancy, about that. And she actually was, she was agreeable that maybe it didn't need to be as much paved over by the dock area. And that the area behind that potentially could be planted. With
Presently grass, right?
it's presently grass, yes. Yeah. And the other additional area on the other side of that existing patio, let's see, over right in here. That hasn't changed, but she agreed that a planted area adjacent to that, about 20 feet long by 3 foot, could be added to kind of make more of a balance between paving and planted area. And the specifics of the plantings could be discussed, certainly, but she's an older woman, she's not looking to take care of a lot of flowers, so shrubbery was more preferable. So it might be things like winterberry and serviceberry and clethra, native species, but maybe it'd be lower care.
So you're going to leave the, sorry. Go ahead, you finished?
Yes, I'm fine. Yep, go ahead.
Becky, anything?
No, thank you for, taking those comments into consideration and making some revisions here.
Yep.
I think that's a good improvement. I think that right with these permeable paver patios, the maintenance is important. And provided that they, can use this, it's nice to see this and actually
Right.
be able
Yeah,
to
they're
maybe
coming out with
reference this in the future for projects too. I think that's a good compromise. It is you know, an expansion of paver patio within 25 feet of the resource area. As we saw, it is all lawn out there, so I think the board needs to consider with this request, would, you know, the addition of these plantings in here be enough to grant approval for that project?
Is the existing patio going to stay the way it is?
Size in terms of location, yes.
In terms of, it's a poured cement patio, right?
That's coming out and that would become permeable.
Become permeable pavers, okay.
Correct.
And then you're going to the right of that, you're going to add additional pavers.
Yeah, about 64 square feet there.
Yeah, and you're going to give us 64 feet of planting where the grass is?
Correct.
On that side?
Correct.
And then you're going to pave the entire area on the other side, which is currently grass?
No, it's not, the plan I gave you tonight,
And at the edge of the dock?
it ends where the
Yeah,
dock
that's-
ends,
yeah.
exactly. And it's only 6 feet out from the shoreline wall.
The rest of that area was to be
Oh,
planted over
okay.
there.
There's another 5 feet behind it
Yeah.
that would become planted.
Right, see how on this one it ends here?
Right.
All right.
The difference is it just only went 6 feet instead of the 10 or 11 feet.
So, Mike, can I assume that that planting area that was up in the corner there is still going to be planned to be
Yeah.
done? The other question I have is, with the extension of, could we just extend this buffer zone all the way to the edge of the property, that right there, and then just kind of get that little bit of a 3-foot buffer right down that entire wall? Would that be acceptable, or no?
I spoke to her about doing, like, you know, equal square footage to what she was asking. I think that's probably a good idea, what you're saying, but I really feel like I need to ask her first and not just say, so I don't feel at liberty to make that call, quite honestly. I don't want to add to her maintenance unless she's agreeable to that.
And we don't have square footages on here, but what you're proposing is regardless of the proposed paver area, the planted areas will be in excess, so there will be no expansion of the footprint. There will be an offset of at least 1-to-1, is what
No,
I mean.
there is expansion of the footprint.
Well, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
That expanded area will be
They're
at
matching
least
the
as
expansion.
much in
Matching
planting
the
area.
expansion, and the improvement is the pervious paver versus the impervious concrete that's currently there.
Correct.
Okay. I would like to see that natural buffer, for me, extend all the way to the edge of the property. I think it would be more aesthetically pleasing
Right.
as well. You know, but I'm not here to gauge aesthetics.
Right.
But if we can put that 3-foot buffer all the way down, I think that would be a vast improvement from what is there currently, because it's just all grass.
Right.
And it would be a nice overall improvement, especially if we can get a guarantee or get a commitment to keeping those pavers maintained appropriately.
Right.
So that's all I had to say.
I'm impressed by this German engineering.
German made.
Yeah. Ted, anything?
Yeah, just can, to Eric's comment, where exactly are you suggesting that 3-foot be?
Oh, yeah,
I'll-
Ted can't see it.
I'll do it on
Oh,
here.
sorry, Ted.
So can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yep, so this whole front
Okay.
section here, they would be talking about putting shrubs in the front here. And then as we go to the side over here, this would be modified, and there would be additional shrubs planted in the back here. So he's gonna come back with speak to the client, come back with a revised plan.
Yep.
And we'll get that
Yep.
to them and, you know, look for a continuation here to the next meeting.
All right.
Okay.
All right, let's,
Roy, anything?
Yep, looks good to me.
anyone in the audience like to speak? Okay,
So,
I guess the only question I have is, you know, with these O&M plans, right? This is an improvement if this is maintained.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that, you know, these O&M plans are enforced?
you live out your life in Sturbridge.
Huh?
You live out your life in Sturbridge.
Oh, great. Just start walking around, take a boat along, all right. Awesome. Well, I love it here, so that works. Okay. Guess,
Another question.
honey, if you're watching, we're staying.
We have a 25 no-touch, 25-foot no-touch. And basically, we are putting cement or blocks of cement across the whole front of this with a little bit of an exception. We really I don't have any problem with this plan from the point of view of where we're at, but we really have to discuss as a committee what we do with the 25-foot no-touch.
Well, I mean, I guess, in my brain, right, and I get that, is if we go from pervious to impervious, that's a net improvement. If we can get the natural buffer there, that's a net improvement. Or we just leave it as is, but we still have that pervious stone there, that's not gonna go away, and we don't get anything else to help protect.
But your brain is absolutely correct, but your brain is adding block.
Adding block, right, reducing pervious,
Pure purpose.
pure pervious, right. So, yeah, I get it. Well, that's always the debate,
I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah, I get it. Would you like a continuance? Oh, sorry, that's your.
Yeah, that was good.
All right,
Please.
motion to continue?
I'd like to make a motion to continue till May 11th. Is that
yep, May 11th meeting.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carson Stuber in favor?
Dead?
Did we last in favor?
You all set, Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Yeah, okay.
So we will be moving back to the center office building for the next one. We will have it on the agenda and put it in the email to remind everyone. But it will be May 11th, center office building.
Gotcha.
All right, we are down to 1:30.
I'll just stay here.
130 Lane 9, continued notice of intent replacing timber stairs with stone steps and landscaping improvements, DEP file number 300-1153, Jeff Tassi, Representative Mike Thibodeau.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think since the site visit, one thing that's been determined is that this retained area or terrace that's created right here is not within the 100-year flood elevation that's here. And that area was actually going to be a balanced cut and fill anyways, and permeable with spaced Goshen stone, as well as basically we're going from the current timber stairs to Goshen stone stair with spaced Goshen stone landings in between, pretty much from all the way down. It's some 60 stairs. It's a lot of steps. Basically, Jeff would like better access to the water, and I think it's going to be a very nice aesthetic improvement as well. I think it's easier to walk next to the stairs he has currently than it is to walk on them. At the site visit, we talked about well, I talked about there's a lot of bittersweet there, and you know, Ed, you mentioned that if it's within where I'm doing the work, you know, we may be able to take some of that, remove some of that, but if we're not gonna, in any of these lower areas, we're not gonna, you know, go crazy there. Yeah, at the same token, I'm looking to add some vegetation so that, you know, maybe some clethra and blueberry bushes. I'd like to see those win the war with the bittersweet, but there needs to be something there battling. Anyway, and this right here this is Jeff's edge of his deck, and it's very steep, and he does have erosion issues, so he'd like to put in a small, like 1.5 foot tall boulder wall, and then plant it. It would be sort of a mixed planting with some evergreen, but also some natives, things like clethra and blueberry again. Overall, I mean, along the path, areas that are disturbed, I'd like to put in add some herbaceous perennials. Again, maybe compete with the bittersweet. And, yeah, I don't know, any questions?
Becky?
All right, so, right, this has been continued out a little bit to get some of that additional information which we needed to understand what the impacts were gonna be on site. So since then, DEP has issued, file number, there was no comments with that. Natural Heritage reviewed this under, the Endangered Species Act. They had no,
no
conditions
issues.
or comments for that and issued a no-take determination. There'll be no, you know, they're keeping that patio area out of the bordering land subject to flooding on the site here. And the only impacts within that or within the existing footprint of where those stairs are now. So there's no impact to flood storage area associated with the project since they're taking out and putting back in the existing footprint there. Minor bank impacts associated with these steps down below, but again, those are in the footprint of the existing steps. It's about 6 linear feet.
Right.
Battery's running. I never plugged it in, it's in the back of here. Yeah. So, right, the project will assist with some of the current erosion issues that we saw out there.
Right.
And better define use areas, like that patio area. We know that whole thing is kind of a steep slope going down, so we'll keep people on the walkway, give them that sitting area, keep them from off of the steep slopes. Plantings are a good improvement there for that. So, I mean, I think that at this point, since we've got the additional information, can move forward with the project if the commission sees fit. I'd recommend issuing, we have standard orders of conditions, erosion control install. We'd try to do some phasing of that with, we know the water level fluctuates here with some of the work down below.
Yep.
We can add that as a condition. Any spoils to be directly removed off-site and or immediately stabilize them, since we know it's a steep slope there. And then just a condition I'd add in for the property owner, any future cutting along the property, those are things that he needs to come back in for approval. There was some kind of maintenance of vegetation down the lower sections there, we noted out there, so just to make sure that he's aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Are we still waiting on the COC from Green Hill Engineering?
We are still waiting on that, yeah. So it's not overlapping work, but there is an older order of conditions that they never closed out for a deck project setback. You can have two open on a property. We really try to work to get these closed when new projects come in. We've been trying to do a good job of going through the old files and finding these things. They haven't closed that out yet. We'd like them to close that out. But I don't think can't make that a condition of this project, so.
Maybe at the closure of this project.
Is that?
Closure.
We'll get them to close them both out.
You can close both.
Eric, anything?
I guess the only question I would have is that there's an existing walkway in there, so are we along the lines of the 25-foot no-touch? Are we expanding footprint there? Are we improving in that area? What's the situation?
Yeah, it's not, it's,
I don't, I'd like to see the overlay, it's not a huge deal. Is it in the exact same track that the other steps were in?
yeah, that's the footprint of the
Okay,
steps
so we're-
going down there,
E-
so.
Everything we're doing is within the existing footprint of the existing stairs?
Yes.
Okay, all right, then, thank you.
Carson, anything? Ted, anything?
Yeah, Ed, when we were out there, if I recall, there was, the last step was wooden that was actually in the lake. And, the question was whether or not the stone, the final stone would be, in the lake or not. And I can't really identify, that last entrance point is, obviously they probably removed the wood, but did they want to put in a stone embedded into the lake itself? Which I don't necessarily have an issue with because it's stone, but someone can answer that.
Yeah, I guess I had said that we were willing to not put those last steps in,
Pull it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but, if that's the best thing.
It juts, I'd like to see it out of there.
Right, because then
Yeah.
that would be considered a land underwater impact that we weren't
Yeah.
discussing. I think it'd be a good improvement. I don't think it should have been put that low, nor is it probably needed.
Yeah.
When the water's out there, it's, easy
It
to
is
step down.
stone.
Good memory.
All right,
So the applicant's going to remove the final steps beyond that kind of brushed area that we were all looking at and not carry the walkway directly into the lake. Is that correct?
That sounds like the plan.
Yep, and I can add that in as a condition.
Roy, anything?
No, that's a good discussion. I agree.
All right.
Good comments, Ted.
All right, continuation?
No,
Or are we gonna close this and,
Yeah, we can.
yeah, I think you can,
Unless there's anybody from the public who also wants to talk.
yeah. All right, so, we have a motion,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
all right? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor?
Ted, Roy?
In favor, Ted Winglass?
Or Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
With regards to the application at 130 Lane 9, DEP file number 300-1153, I'd like to make a motion to approve the project with the appropriate conditions outlined by the agent, including the removal of the steps that are in the lake.
All right, second?
Second.
All right, second by Karsten. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stüber in favor?
Ed,
Ted Winglass in favor.
Roy,
Or Bishop in favor?
and Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
5 minutes?
We can just continue, right?
What?
7:44, right? Which was...
Oh. Yeah, right, you're right.
Yeah, we're good.
have a good night.
All right, we are. Quackhamsummit Pond.
Just call it South Pond, it's easier.
That's easier.
It's like Webster Lake, who's got time for that?
Continued notice of intent, alum treatment of South Pond, EP file number 300. Do we have a number?
We do.
Yep, we did get a file number on Tuesday. It's 1158.
1153.
1158.
8, sorry. Okay. Back to it, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So we're back. We were waiting for DEP file number, and then also, again, we're on South Pond. It's not mapped as estimated habitat, which is a jurisdictional area for natural heritage under the Wetlands Protection Act for reviewing things for rare wildlife habitat. But it is mapped as priority habitat for a state-listed plant. So they did have to file with the Endangered Species Program under the Mass Endangered Species Act. We got some preliminary comments back from Natural Heritage, which we wanted to get those to see if there would be any changes or anything that they would request that would potentially modify the project kind of before moving forward, and we needed the DEP file number and comments. So we also have a few comments from DEP. Some of them are overlapping a little bit. They did have a question about area, and I can let you go into the details, but I did print everything. I don't know if you want.
I don't have anything, so
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say, I
can
don't
either
know if
go
you
through it
want-
from there, or,
Yeah, I got the DEP file number and their questions, and then I just printed your response
Sure.
with Natural Heritage. If you just
Yeah,
want to kind
that's
of go
fine.
over that a little bit for them.
Sure.
And then, you know, you're welcome. Since we kind of just got all that in from DEP, one of the things was coordinating, because this pond is in 3 towns, that working with the other towns as they're moving forward with drafting their orders. And I can let Carl go in, he's had some
Yeah, I can.
meetings already. I need to be able to do that, so my recommendation would be that we continue this to the next meeting, and during that time, I can draft that, working with the other towns, and get that ready for the commission to review and hopefully approve at the next meeting.
yeah,
So,
that'd be great. Yeah, I spoke with, we've been in front of East Brookfield and Brookfield as well. Brookfield, that hearing was 2 nights ago. No, that was East Brookfield 2 nights ago. But the Brookfield folks didn't have a file number when we went, so they continued it. But they had just received the letter from Natural Heritage explaining some of their concerns or questions about the program. So we addressed those questions, but I hadn't yet even seen the letter at that time. So they continued and didn't vote. They were holding off until they got the details.
Is this
But
the Conservation Commission in Brookfield?
their Conservation Commission, yep. And then the East Brookfield Conservation Commission approved the project. They haven't written the order of conditions, they're gonna wait. And basically, whatever you folks decide are the conditions they'll adopt.
Do they have staff there?
They do not.
Yes,
And they
it's
were
right at
very
town.
happy to have someone else in charge of writing conditions. Well, it was fun. I won't say anything about it. So in any case, the primary concerns, I won't get into the nitty-gritty, but the primary concerns from Natural Heritage were just the application rate that's being proposed. Is it comparable? Is it correct? Is it the right approach for this lake? They cited some examples of other lakes where the treatments were staggered. They did other ones where the concern was just, is there too much alum going in at one time? That was their biggest concern. And I was able to explain, well, no, we're not treating the whole area of the lake. If you recall, there's Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3. We're applying for an application to ask for treatment of the whole, all 3 zones. But as you probably know, we're only doing Zone 1 and Zone 2 now. Zone 3 may or may not get done at some point in the future. So it is split up. The treatment's divided. And then their other concern was the concentration within the water column. Is it too high based on the application rate? And we did some calculations for them and explained their threshold for concern for fish is 50 milligrams per liter of alum or aluminum is too high. And they wanted to know, well, what is your concentration going to be? And it ends up being the highest is 6.75. So we're well below 50.
Is there any way you can tell by looking at the bottom of the lake whether you're applying the appropriate amount or not?
No, because what happens is this material basically goes into the water and it will precipitate out phosphorus. So if there's no phosphorus in the water column or not enough, and I'm hoping there's not a lot of phosphorus in the water column, I want that material to go to the bottom, hit the sediment, and then start sucking up the phosphorus or binding with the phosphorus as it moves through the sediment. So the sediment in the bottom layer of the lake, if you've ever seen some lakes, they tend to be, it's very hard to tell where the lake ends and the sediment begins. It's that soft of a bottom. In the middle of the lake, near the shores, it's sandy, but as you get into the middle, it actually is this fluffy black mayonnaise stuff that's down there, and this material, and it's almost the same density as water. So when we put this alum in, it's actually got a density of 1.1, which is 10% more dense than water. So it tends to drop right through the water column down to the bottom, and when it hits that bottom layer, it actually settles through that bottom layer, and we're targeting about 10 centimeters in. So we want that material to strip the phosphorus out of the top layer of sediment and keep moving down. The further it goes, the more phosphorus that it's stripping out, basically. So that's the approach. We're not treating, the other thing is we're not treating near the shoreline anywhere, and that's where most of the wildlife, the fish, they had concerns over mussels and things, but everywhere, we're treating 25 feet and deeper. So there's no mussels in 25 feet. It goes anoxic in the summer, so there's nothing living there. It's all outside of our treatment area. I can go, let's see what other comments they had, but most of the comments were all related to the application rate. They had I won't say concerns. Yeah, the 50 milligram per liter question, we were below that. One area where 5.17 milligrams per liter, and the other is, zone 2 is 6.75, so we're well below 50. They were concerned about the monitoring, who's in charge of the monitoring program for pH during the treatment. And, I just confirmed that TRC, my company, is going to be responsible for that. We'll work with volunteers from the QQLA organization, and the reason we need to do that is more, not for the need of having people out there, it's more because I need to get in-kind match for the grant. Their volunteer time counts as service towards the project, so.
Yep, and the contractor who will be applying the alum will be responsible for monitoring pH.
And they have to monitor as well, so they'll be out there. Our job really as overseers of the work is to make sure that they'll be monitoring much more near where they're working, around the boat as the boat's traveling. We'll be further out, we'll be looking for evidence of fish kills or anything unusual occurring within the lake that we can alert them and shut the thing down so that we can see what's happening as opposed to continuing on with the project. Because it's going to be 5 to 8 days worth of work. It's not like, it's not happening all at once. It's really a process that happens. They wanted to know downstream areas being impacted, or they had questions about who's monitoring the downstream areas. The plan is to shut the gate at the lake so that there's no flow downstream. We're not treating during a period of high water. At least that's the goal, so that if the gate's shut, there won't be impacts to downstream waters anyway. But we also assured them that we'd have someone monitoring pH at the outlet. We'll make that one of the sites. We have 15 sites located within the perimeter of the lake.
Really? Wow, okay.
Yeah, so the goal is to do those sites 3 times or 4 times a day so that you'll have data for that site. We'll go out there before it starts so that you have some baseline and you can see how it changes, and if there's any drastic changes, we can work with that. So, and the other thing too, this is a buffered alum treatment, so it's DEP or Natural Heritage wasn't aware of all the details of the treatment necessarily, but the approach for some alum treatments is you put in the aluminum sulfate, which is acidic, and you worry about potential pH changes, and a lot of treatments use a very low dose, and the goal is to really just strip the surface water of phosphorus so that the surface waters are cleaner. That's not the goal for this. This is to get the sediment treated, and so we're putting in a relatively higher dose, but they're putting in a buffering sodium aluminate. So they put in aluminum sulfate and sodium aluminate, and the two together are pH neutral if you put them in at a 2-to-1 ratio. So by doing that, and they can tweak that ratio on the boat real time based on the pH readings that they're getting from the work that they're doing. So the boat that's being used is designed solely for this type of work. It's the people that are doing it, that we've since gone out to bid and hired them. It's Solitude Lake Management, but they bought a company called HAB, H-A-B, which is harmful algal bloom. All they ever did was alum treatments all over the country. So they're very good at what they do. So I'm very confident that the work that they're going to do is up to snuff. And we've worked with them in the past on a water supply project for Providence Water. We did a big, very similar project.
Told us about that when you did it.
Yeah, so it went very well, and they were very professional about it. Let's see if I'm missing any others.
How's that now?
It's great. Yeah, we're actually still tracking. That's been about 4 years since that application occurred, and this is the 4th summer, and we've been collecting data every summer, and it's stayed pretty good. The challenge they have is they have quite a bit of flow coming in that is full of phosphorus. So the duration that they will get is a function of how clean they can keep that flow coming in. So stormwater improvements in the watershed and things like that. So we were thinking they might get 7 to 10 years out of that one. This one we're expecting 15 or more. And that's a function of flushing. This lake flushes once every 2 years, whereas that one flushes every 6 months. So it's a different dynamic.
Now, Becky, you on board for this? Are you able to do the work? You have the time? I mean, when's this got to be completed?
The work?
Yeah.
We're hoping to have it in May.
Yeah, we should be on track with the contract schedule and everything we need to do as far as that. When it comes to the actual work of the project, we won't be out there, but right, our department is handling all the paperwork associated with the 319 grant for the town on this project. So yeah.
Yeah, it should be the last week of May or the first week of June is what we're shooting for. So
Okay.
that's still pending the town of Sturbridge approving the contractor's contract in town meeting, right? So we got that coming up, I guess, or obviously the orders of conditions here and the other two towns, so.
All right. Any questions? Eric?
Nope, I'm good.
Great.
Ed, anything? Roy?
No, he answered all my questions as it related to the application of the,
Yeah, I don't have any questions
Great.
either. All right.
I'd like to make a motion for a continuance until May 11th
Yep, in the center office building.
in the center office building.
Okay.
All right. And that'll be at 6 o'clock. I'm just kidding.
Oh, thank you. All right, thanks for coming in.
So, we have motion and was seconded. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Austin Stuba in favor?
Roy?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed, where'd you go? There you go.
Ed Winglass in favor.
All right, great. And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, we're now at Podunk
See you in a few
Road.
weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Podunk Road, continued notice of intent, Mass DOT, State Highway Layout. What do we got?
We received another written request for continuance on this to our next meeting, which is May 11th, and that'll be held in center office building.
You getting any feed on what's going on?
No, not exactly. I mean, this is like a two-phase project here, so I know they have a lot they're working on to think about the next phase of this, which will actually be the distribution line project with the road improvements.
Yep.
But I think they have a few hurdles they need to work out to think about the feasibility of that. So I know they've been asking some questions about stormwater and standards and things of that nature, but also too, it's a DOT project in the sense they're the property owner, it's on their land, and they're still waiting for some things from them as well, so that could be part of the reason why we're seeing this continuation.
Okay, all right. So all in favor of a continuation? Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Carsten Stuber in favor.
Ed?
Ted Winglass in favor.
Roy?
For Bishop in favor.
And Ed Goodwin's in favor. All right, we are now to,
One question on that, I do see that, are we gonna have that site walk, Becky, on the 3rd?
Yes, all site visits for the next meeting will be May 3rd. So that's what we're planning on, unless they ask to continue that out, because they've been continuing out the site walk and the meeting, so at this point in time, yes.
Okay.
all right. 68 Paradise Lane, continued notice of intent, raise and rebuild of lakefront cottage, DEP file number 300-1155. Owner applicant, Jerry Buchanan. Scott Morrison. All right.
So this was continued from the last meeting. Board voted to move forward with a peer review proposal. Getting those, we did solicit for those. We did initially put some out, and we ended up putting more out for a total of 7. Some of the initial responses we were getting back were people were too busy right now to be able to put in a proposal for that. So we did get 1 back at this time. I've provided that to the board. The applicant has asked for that too. I provided all that information to them as well. It's a reputable firm. They're well qualified. You know, it's only 1 to look at for the board versus, you know, we ask for 3 to try to get 3. We don't always get those, but we usually at least have 2.
For $5,000, you need to, I point that out.
Yeah, I wasn't
Okay.
done. So, what I was gonna say is, you know, it's up to the board if you wanna move forward with 1, or if the applicant would like us to go back out and look for more proposals, and come back at the next meeting with those. I think the board can decide on how.
Actually, I'd like to have, before you make a decision, I'd like to, I wasn't able to talk at the last meeting. I was trying to talk when you were, and like no one can hear me. So I have some comments about the peer review process. So before you make a decision about anything, I'd like to read something, if that's all right.
It's relative to,
The peer review process.
oh, okay. You gave an indication of allowing a peer review process.
You couldn't hear me last time. I was trying to talk and no one was responding to anything I was saying.
So you're saying you didn't approve a peer review process?
I'm saying that I couldn't talk about it. I wanted to ask questions about it, and I want to ask questions about it now.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, obviously it was proposed at the last meeting that there be a peer review, and I pay for it. What I wanted to say last time is that I really don't understand why such a review is necessary. At my additional expense on this project, I purposely hired a wetlands expert, Scott here, instead of an engineer to lead the project, because it was apparent there was like wetlands on the border of the property. And it is a very small property, about 1/5 of an acre. As I noted to you a couple of meetings ago, I'm on the board of directors of the Big Alum Lake Association, whose sole purpose is keeping the lake and watershed clean. Therefore, I wanted to be a good steward of the lake and worked hard with Scott. So in conjunction with Scott and the engineer, we developed a plan that would provide additional benefits to the lake over the existing conditions. First, we kept the cottage very small with no garage and moved it back so it was out of the 50-foot line. In fact, we moved it really to the only location available on the property, since wetlands is on both sides. It's so close to the road that we'll have to go to the ZPA to get a waiver. I'm hoping that I can park a car in the front of the house. Second, Scott's survey found that some of the mowed lawn was wetlands, as you probably saw. So despite the small property, we propose to reclaim some of the lawn as wetlands and return it to its natural wetland state. We also propose adding several stormwater basins to deal with the runoff that comes from the road, which makes my lot a lot wetter and also drains directly into the lake. And it's important to note that our submitted plan, it fully complies and conforms with all Sturbridge requirements and regulations that apply to small residential properties. So based on the fact that my proposed cottage, which will be very small, especially compared to the surrounding houses, is on the only location available, and based on the fact that I have offered to reclaim wetlands and add stormwater mitigation, I just don't really understand the reason for a peer review on such a small residential project, unless I hired a guy that you just don't trust his work. I presume that he comes here often in front of you, and you've trusted his work in the past. The question I have is just what exactly is going to be done with the review. What we have proposed is the only thing that's really possible on this lot, and we have added reclamation and stormwater mitigation. I mean, do you really want me to just go ahead and build a very tall, skinny house with a basement on the existing footprint, which is within 35 feet of the lake? Because if you don't allow this proposal, which is really the only thing that's possible, that's what I'm going to have to do. Of course, if I did that, then I wouldn't have to give up my lawn. This a peer review proposal was reportedly to review the wetland delineation. However, the proposal also includes notice of the intent, includes review of notice of the intent application. You have full-time staff who should be more than capable of reviewing the notice of intent application. It's my job to propose a wetlands, to hire someone to propose a wetlands delineation, and it's the commission jobs to go ahead and review it. I don't want to pay to assist the commission in its duties. And further, regarding the proposed peer review process, the only response has been for a total cost of $5,000. This is a fifth of an acre. Okay, it's a small residential project. It's not a commercial project. The $5,000 exceeds the cost that I've already spent for the wetland delineation and prep and submission of the notice of intent application. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's an astonishing price, and I'm not going to pay $5,000. I won't do it. In 2 meetings, no one has offered a single alternative, likely because there is none. The agent keeps mentioning that she wants to delay this whole process because she wants to see the vegetation in the wetlands when it grows back. As Scott informed me, in cases where vegetation is altered, soils are relied on to go ahead and determine the wetlands boundary area. his soils analysis is what forced him to place wetland flags on the lawn, which I obviously didn't want. In any event, I don't really understand why we need to see this new spring vegetation. The wetlands that is the grass, like the wetlands that is like the lawn, is grass and weeds, as it always has been. The more obvious wetlands already has the usual ferns, skunk cabbage, and jewelweed already is growing back. Finally, at the site review, like several board members had questions or comments, and at that site review, Scott attempted to hand over revised plans to the agent, but she refused to go ahead and take them at that time. These were revisions based on the first meeting. In addition, because the commission had a tight schedule that day, Scott wrote up his responses to each of your questions or comments, but the agent wouldn't take them before the last meeting because they were submitted on Monday before the meeting, despite the fact these were only responses to the walkthrough. So at this time, I would like Scott to address all those issues. And in addition, I would like Scott to comment on the proposed costs of the proposal and the discrepancies in the proposal. And finally, I'd really like to know what exactly it is that you want to get from this peer review, this process. What will change as a result of me spending thousands of dollars over what I have proposed? There is not any alternative. It is a fifth of an acre. It is a tiny, tiny property. There's no place for the house to go except back 15 feet, which I've done. We place it right in the middle so it's equidistant from each side. There's nothing else. And in addition, I've offered back reclamation, like stormwater mitigation. I don't understand. Scott, if you could please address the proposal and also the questions that they have.
No. You've given your dissertation. We can't open, from my point of view. Becky, have you got a copy of what we send out to?
The request for proposals?
Yeah, request for proposals on this project.
I don't have a printed copy of it, but I did provide it to them. That's
So
what
you have that. You're asking me for something you already have.
Well, no, we're not asking for anything. We'd just like to address the board.
The problem is that we voted to do a peer review on this project.
But you voted for the wetland delineation peer review, not a complete notice of intent review.
It wasn't just the delineation, it was also because there's a wetland replication, so it was review of the application, including the wetland replication.
And you asked me if I said it was okay. I tried to answer, and I couldn't answer. So it wasn't working, which probably wasn't correct as far as open meeting laws go, okay?
Well, I think it was working.
Becky, I tried to talk, okay? Believe me, I wanted to say basically, why are we doing this? No one's ever explained to me why we're doing this. I don't, what is the problem?
The site is a very complicated site. Small doesn't make it simple.
Well, it's not complicated. There's wetlands on both sides. What would I do different?
We consider it complicated. We consider it having a stream
And how is it complicated, sir?
down. We want to make sure that we do what's right by the lake.
But what else would you do other than what I ask? You're going to just let?
I don't know the answer to that, but that's why
I can just, I presume.
The one that we would go to, are you God?
Pardon?
You're the one that we would go to? We want to get peer review.
No, this is Scott. He's a wetlands expert. I paid extra money to start with a wetlands expert. Now you want me to pay extra, more, way more than I paid him. If I have a question for you. If only one if this is the only proposal and it's $5,000, I'm not going to pay it. So what happens then?
So if you want to go that direction, then we can open the public hearing, and what we'll do is we'll vote on it, but we're not going to approve your project. We're going to reject your project for lack of information.
What information don't you have, sir? Scott, I mean, if
Eric would like to speak.
Eric?
So, you know, I empathize with your situation, I really do, and I'd like to dial back the, heat a little bit in the conversation. Speaking from my perspective, right, we have projects brought in front of us all the time. I try to call balls and strikes where I see them, right? But we have a 25-foot no touch. We have a 50-foot no new structure. And then you have your grandfathering, right, which you are welcome to, right, within the confines of what is available to you within the law. When I look at this, there is a significant quantified expansion of footprint within the 50-foot, between the 25 and 50-foot buffer. I get that you're in what you're thinking is, well, we're pulling 15 feet back from the lake so we get outside of the 50, but then there's that other bordered vegetated wetland right there that also has to be protected as part of this, and then by what we're doing is we're robbing Peter to pay Paul in that, right? So, I would be perfectly happy, for me, I'm only one vote, to see something that sits in the existing footprint in whatever configuration it needs to be within what it is. But what you're asking for is for a waiver from us for expansion between the 25 and the 50 foot of additional lot coverage that isn't there right now for a much larger house. And, personally, I was not asking for the peer review, but I have some real challenges with this plan as it's currently stated for those reasons, because we have to apply the regulations equitably and make sure that everybody is treated reasonably and fairly, and we want to make sure that we're looking at this from a reasoned approach, right? So, that's my perspective, right? Just taking the heat out of it, and I empathize with some of the technology. We've all dealt with it through COVID, right?
If I could just ask you a question, Mr. Gaspar, what is the purpose, though, of the peer review? It's like I have a wetlands expert who is like delineated, the wetlands, and we've offered like mitigation. So what would come from, or what typically comes from a peer review?
Well, they're looking for alternatives. They're looking at the science that was laid out in front. They're looking to make sure that there isn't a negative impact on the wetland from the project as it is stated. You're right. I mean, Scott is a respected engineer, wetland scientist. He's got the stamp. I don't call into question at all his morals and judgments. From my perspective, again, I didn't call for the peer review. I'm concerned about other things, but I went along with the peer review, to be honest with you, because the questions that I have are probably going to be addressed by that, right? But as I see it right now, we're asking for a pretty significant expansion of footprint on a very challenging site without significant enough reason for us to make that change as stewards of the wetlands. Just looking at it and trying to look at this fairly. And again, I'm 20% of the vote.
My understanding is the reason why we asked for peer review is because when we came to the lot, it was actually wet all over the place. So that raised questions about whether the wetland was delineated in the right way, right? I mean, so the way it was, I mean, on the right side, it was all delineated as wetland. But then if you look at the house on the left side, it was really wet. And the question that arose is whether the vegetation was changed and whether that part is actually wetland. So So if the review would come in and say this wetland, the whole project would change, because the whole, isn't that right, if I remember right? So the whole waters would change in terms of what is wetland.
Right, there's some outstanding questions with the site and the delineation with the saturation there. The initial information that was submitted didn't address any of that on the site. And we did go out there and we noted the saturation. There's been a lot of prolonged saturation out there. Scott did submit some additional information. I felt like some of that information was lacking. We don't know what field indicators you were using when you submitted that information. You know, indicators of hydrology need to be looked at too when you've got disturbed areas. I think it's important, and I think we need to get a professional soil scientist, a wetland scientist, to look at that, to verify that we don't have any concerns there, and there is vegetation around that well area. So I think that with the disturbance that's occurred out there, and even on the other side, we just need to get someone to take a better look at that, to be able to have the time and go out there and look at
Can
that.
I please go through my responses before the commission makes any decision? Because I provided detailed responses. The other thing I want to point out as well is,
There isn't a decision that can be made tonight from the point of view of approving your project.
I completely
only
agree,
thing-
and we're not asking for that.
The
What
only
I
thing
wanna
we
point
have
out-
here is if you remove the peer review, then you're asking us for a vote.
Let me address the peer review first, and then I want to go through, and I provided 7 pages of responses to the Conservation Commission agents' comments that I haven't been able to discuss with the
We
commission.
went out there and there wasn't even a delineation of the wetland.
Excuse me? You didn't see the blue flags? There's a
I walked on the lawn and the whole lawn was wet.
It was wet because, I'm sorry, because of the snow. You remember, we just had a storm. It's,
Let me point out something specific regarding this proposal. This proposal's for a grand total of $5,000 with delineation review of being $1,800. They provided determinations of budgets. So the high-end wetland scientist was $197 an hour. The younger one, I think, is $140. So they have a $1,800 budget.
Are you talking about the peer review?
This is the peer review proposal we've received right now.
We don't even have to accept that. We can see if we can get another one.
Agreed, and this is why we're going to request an additional one. They say the task can be completed by one wetland scientist done in a 4-hour day, including travel. 4 hours. However, the price for that task is $1,800. Even if they use the most expensive person, that's $800, not $1,800. It's entirely inflated. And I think it necessitates additional proposals.
Well, that was what I was asking Becky. Have you heard back negatively from, you have 8 out, right?
We put 7 out, originally put, I think, 4 out, and then put additional ones out. The majority of the people are too busy right now. One person is working with the same engineering firm, so they felt they might have a conflict. But otherwise, people are just very busy right now.
if I could ask just like one more question. You're putting out a peer review because you had questions about the wetness of the property. Scott has answers, but he has been unable to give you those answers. I don't understand.
By that, because none of us that I know of were offered anything from him on site, period.
But Scott?
I tried to give plans. I had
Tried to give Becky plans?
and she said, I've already received them.
Scott, we asked you, we said we brought plans for the commission. You had 11 by 17 plans, we had them, we had colored plans. And we said,
But
oh,
at
are they
the
the same
last-
ones that we have? And you said yes. So please stop saying that you tried to.
provided responses, and you refused to let me even go through
At the
them.
last meeting, okay,
We do that for all people. We try to not accept information within that time frame
okay,
so we
that's fine.
can get it to
But
the
at the
commission.
following meeting, which was the last meeting, after the site review, he had answers and he has been unable, you guys had questions. He's trying to give you answers, but before you even accept the answers, you just say, wow, it's really wet, we need a peer review. Don't you want to listen to his answers and analyze his answers before you reject them? You haven't listened to his answers for your questions. I mean, can't we answer, right now, you all had questions. He's got answers. Can't we at least do that? I don't.
I'm going to have to give you a continuation because we've got other people on the agenda.
You guys, so this is the part I don't understand about the commission. I'm trying to do the right thing. You guys won't listen to me, and now you just want me to spend $5,000. Where I spent additional money up front. How many times is the wetland engineer in a residential a project, the lead engineer? Okay, I'm spending money to try to work with you. You won't listen to any analysis that he has. I mean, can't you just spend just 5 minutes right now and just listen to what he has to say?
All right, I'll give you 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Perfect. I appreciate that. So just quickly, I provided this response letter on March 27th. I do know, if you can bring up a copy of the plan, just to go through quickly, the commission had some questions regarding, so the wetland delineation was completed, I think last fall, mainly based upon the presence or absence of hydric soils, because the vast majority of the wetland boundary is right at the fringe or expands out into that lawn. So when you've got areas with disturbed soils, you focus and look at the colors in the soil. The colors in the soil will provide the long-term hydrology. So that's what the original wetland delineation was based upon. The soil colors are long-term indicators of hydrology. You go through, you do the analysis, determine if those colors key out to be a hydric soil or a non-hydric soil. So that's what the original delineation is based upon. During the site walk, there's a well right here. The house hadn't been used in many months. There was some water trickling out of this well and flowing, and it was saturating an area of the lawn right through here.
What were the perforated pipes coming from the well for?
There's one, I don't know if it's perforated.
It's perforated.
But there's a pipe somewhere at this well, and I think it somehow flows down, and there's a discharge, I want to say, somewhere down here.
So it's a drainage pipe?
That's what I believe it to be.
Yeah.
Some type of drainage pipe. Similar, there's a drainage pipe here. So what I did was, based upon the commission's concern, I conducted there's an existing test plot down here. I think it's at A5 or A6. Based upon the delineation, we provided the BBW field data forms. And then from there, I went up and provided 3 additional test plot locations. I provided the soils information. So we've got the soil color, texture, depth to areas. There's absolutely evidence of seasonal high groundwater. For instance, test pit 2, which I think is like right in here. It shows the colors don't key out to a hydric soil. However, you've got redox features within 5 inches of the soil surface, which indicates seasonally you've got saturation within 5 inches of prolonged saturation within 5 inches of the soil surface. But it's not there long enough to create a hydric soil or to key out as a hydric soil. So I provided that information. Part of the problem with this particular site, I think, is historically, all the water from this whole street comes down, and if you look, it flows right down and right into essentially the front door of this existing house. So one of the important things, rather than just let that continue to flow like that, we've provided stormwater improvements. So we're going to capture that water in a deep sump catch basin. They've actually, I think this is the older version of the plan, because they've tucked this pipe up a little bit more and created a longer vegetative bioretention swale. So one of the real key aspects, which we've really pushed on Jeff, and he agreed, and he said, you know what, it's going to cost me extra money, but the enjoyment of this property is the lake. So he agreed to install these stormwater improvements. So he's got a deep sump catch basin here, swale here. We're providing some revegetation of areas within the existing lawn here and here. At Becky's request, we kind of reconfigured this to keep water from draining and going behind those stairs. That was a conversation that we had early on, and Becky
I
suggested.
didn't say to fill the wetland and replicate it. I mean, I said you could do things, you could grade the yard to help kind of keep water flowing in that direction. I just want to be clear. I didn't say to fill the wetland.
Oh, but I think there's really some improvements by getting that water away from those stairs, reconfiguring that, and then providing some native plants in there. I think if that's a sticking point, he'll pull it off the table. But we feel that, I think it goes to the intent of trying to provide some improvements. He cherishes the lake and the water quality there. So he's really worked hard to come up with a plan that fully complies with the town stormwater, additional stormwater requirements, as well as the town of Sturbridge Wetlands Protection Bylaw. In the notice of intent application, I went in great length to detail how it fully complies. And as we were working on that, we actually made several changes to the plan to ensure that it complies. The 4 requirements, there's specific requirements for small lakefront lots, which this unquestionably qualifies for. The 4 requirements being prioritize sediment and erosion control improvements. So I think we've clearly done that by providing, kind of cleaning out some sediments here and then providing some stormwater management. Mitigation must occur within the 25-foot buffer first and then kind of work outward from that. So we've got some mitigation in through here. We're actually pushing the house back to maintain that 50-foot buffer, which is the 3rd requirement. So we've slid that back. He's going to go to the ZBA for permission for that. The existing house is 35 feet from the wetland, so it's an extra 15 feet. And then the 4th requirement is walkways and pathways within the 50-foot buffer, so utilize pervious pavements to be approved by the commission. So that, again, is something that we've proposed. So we've worked hard, the 3 of us, the 2 of us, and McClure Engineering, to really work and come up with a good plan that solves the problems, any drainage issues here. It solves the problems. And it really, I think it's, at the end of the day, it's a significant improvement over the existing conditions. It's unfortunate that we're getting, kind of balled up in this peer review, but I think if, you all review projects like this, single-family houses, projects like this all the time. You've probably reviewed 50 to 100, maybe even more, Mr. Goodwin. I don't think this is that complicated of a project. I just don't.
All right, well, that's your...
I went a little bit further, but I appreciate you taking the time to actually listen to me, and I appreciate that.
I think the board has to decide if they don't want a peer review.
It's expensive.
We voted for a peer review.
Or if you want to revise what you're requesting for the peer review, that could be an option too, but.
I mean, what do
the
you
board.
think about the soil?
Yeah, look, I'm willing to pay, $1,000 or something, to come in and check his soils analysis, which is the issue that you had, I think that you mentioned. But I don't want to spend $5,000. I mean, honestly, if you take it to ridiculous extremes, if the proposal was $100,000, I don't think you'd accept it. $5,000 is even ridiculous. So I'm willing to, if you can find someone, just to check his soils analysis for $1,000 or something, I'm willing to do that.
What do you recommend, Beck?
Well, that's up to the board. I think it's important to have that review, especially because of the disturbed nature of the site and what we've seen out there. I think that is important. But
he's not going to find somebody to come in and review it for $1,000.
I don't know. We can't
Particularly when we
control
can't get
what
somebody.
the cost is, but if it's
We
just
haven't
the
even- we haven't
delineation
even put a
review,
cap
then,
on the
right,
money.
maybe we could put that back out. if that's what you would prefer, and just see if we can get proposals for just that aspect of it. I think with the wetland replication and adding the pipes in the walls there, I think there's some question about, you know, doing that with the wetland replication. Is that just gonna drain that area? You know, I thought a little feedback on that would be useful, because that's, you know, a unusual situation.
And I think if that's the sticking point, he'll pull that completely off the plan. If that's what you're getting hung up on.
I thought it was a benefit. I thought it was a benefit. It's like I'm taking the lawn, it's about a third of the lawn that faces the lake, and taking it away and putting in natural vegetation. And
That I agree
and
with.
Mr. Gasper, you said that, you'd rather me, build in the existing, all I'm doing is moving back 15 feet, but I'm doing a lot more. The water that pours off that road is bad water, and it pours off that road. So I'm trying to go ahead and fix that. I thought that I was, by like reclaiming like wetland out of the lawn, I thought that was a benefit to the lake. I've lived in the lake for 10 years.
Okay.
I want to help the lake.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to take a continuation. I guess you gotta make a decision here. Because if you want us to look for a peer reviewer for under $1,000 and continue this to the next meeting,
I would like, I'm not going to draw a line in the sand, okay? But 5,000 is, I'm not paying 5,000. And
what is the line that you're not drawing?
Well, why do you need a review of the notice of intent application? Like, why don't you, if the question, Mr. Stuber said
Alternatives.
that the question was, the lot was so wet, and that's what, oh, wow, this lot's really wet, maybe we need to get a peer review. So let's have a soils analysis to confirm what Scott says, that where it's wet is not a hydric soil, it's not a wetlands. And if that's the case, then we know exactly what we have, and we can make a decision based on, his existing analysis. Or if there's, if there's additional changes.
Yeah, because based upon their calculation, it should be a 4-hour job and maybe a couple hours to write it up, not $5,000.
I don't think anybody's arguing that $5,000 on this is somebody's looking to just see if somebody wants to overpay, and that's fine, right? That, and I have empathy here. But we're beating a dead horse. I have no problems with the replication area down front. What I have a problem with is the expansion of the square footage between 25 and 50 feet, and how that looks and how that applies equally across everybody who brings projects to me, right? And again, I am 20% of this board, but that's my concern is what I see here. I need somebody to tell me why to say yes, and I haven't heard that yet. So that's just me telling you
I would say the expansion, okay, the
Gentlemen.
the footprint of the house is 700 square feet. The expansion would still make it the smallest house all up and down the lake. So all up and down that road.
I'm not
So it's
arguing
still
with that.
small.
What does that mean? It means nothing.
No, he was saying that he doesn't want to approve a large house where he doesn't approve other large houses. It's not a large.
You have to take every,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Trying to.
I'm sorry.
Right, and just explain where I come from, right? And I'd like to apply, Scott can tell you, everybody who comes in front of this commission, hopefully they feel like they get a fair shake from me and they get a direct, actionable idea of what I'm looking for. What I have in front of me is a plan that I don't have enough information to say yes to, right? And whether that is a peer review or whether that is coming back with a different alternative that gives me something else to compare against, but there's too many questions in my mind here, and we should probably shut it down. I don't want to. We're in a circle now.
Going on and on here. You got your 20 minutes, Scott. I think there are 3 alternatives here. We can vote on your project now. I would think.
Ted, you have a lot of feedback. Are you?
Where am I? Oh,
Hey, Ted?
No, can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, we just had a lot of feedback from background noise from you, so. Ed was
Oh,
just-
all right, well, I can,
Okay.
my mom doesn't hear very well. I think that's Wheel of Fortune, 3 rooms away in the other part of the house, so.
Maybe you could mute.
I'll go back on mute in just a second. I just do think that Scott's done probably about as good of a job as he can to provide, engineering to that site as it relates to managing stormwater runoff into the lake. There are definitely some improvements in that area. Probably the biggest challenge that I have when I look at any application in the future or in the past is, if you have certain jurisdictions, such as a 25-foot and 50-foot, what do they mean when they can just, be waved away? You need to have a really good reason to break that bond, because then that can open the floodgate for the future, and this becomes a decision that other applicants will reference down the road. And that's kind of where I just kind of sit on the fence of that whole thing. I think I'm a believer that landowners have rights and should be able to do things, but I'm also a believer that as these regulations were written over time in this town, our job here is to work within those confines. And it's a tough lot. I think, Scott, you've done a great job in trying to mitigate and make improvements to the lake. And that's just kind of where I just sit at the moment. And I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Roy, you got anything?
Yeah,
Roy?
for me, yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, for me, the peer review is more of an independent, non-advocate review. It's not to question Scott's assessment of the lot or question the soil or revisit it. It's simply an independent, non-advocate review. And that peer review will provide the board with that independent information. Right, so the current stakeholders, the homeowner and Scott, they want to build and certainly understand that. I certainly understand the $5,000 is way out of whack. It certainly should be around $1,000, $2,000, whatever the going rate is. But I think for me, I need that independent review because I walked the lot and it is a challenging lot. It's pretty, but it is going to be a challenge to get approval. And I think that independent review would help, certainly would help me. Over.
If
All right, I gotta
if I
close
may,
this
if you
down.
could,
No.
at your own time, just go through this, because I've gone through, and there's specific requirements for small lakefront lots.
We have to close this down. You want a continuation?
I think we're looking for a continuation, and hopefully we can narrow it down and have just the peer review for the delineation. And I think.
Oh, no, wait a minute. No. Do you want us to pursue a peer review or not?
Yes, we do.
And what's the price range that you're willing to consider?
Something that's reasonable. I don't know what's reasonable. I mean, I'd like to see the proposals.
We can put out for more proposals.
And we should ask.
Next meeting.
We should ask the
Wasn't it reasonable?
existing proposal, why are you charging $1,800 when you say it's 4 hours at $195 an hour? I mean, if we can just at least try to knock down the existing one.
Do you want me to go back to this firm, and it's up to the board, do you want me to go back to this firm and ask for some clarification on their costs, or do you want me to just submit for more proposals?
Well, it does seem that there's some inconsistency there, so maybe.
I'd do both.
Maybe dual track, request additional proposals and ask for clarifications on the existing proposal.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, you know, and one final thing, if you could ask for different kinds of proposals, so you know, if there's a proposal that's just the wetlands for 1,000, but there's one that does everything for like 3,000, and you want to do the everything one, but it's a reasonable cost?
I can ask them to break it down similar to how that one was broken down for the board to look at for their consideration.
You can
Break down the
cut
costs.
it up if that's
Part,
what
you can pick.
right. I didn't mean to get, you know, sideways on this.
Things aren't fun.
Yeah, it's not fun, and
Not fun. They're not fun for me. They're
the
not fun for
longer, you know, and of course, the longer I wait, you know, the best time to build is in a late summer, and I'm running out of time here.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue, that we make a request for additional clarification on the bid, and also make a request for additional peer reviews. And I'd also like to make a motion to continue this until May 11th.
Do I have a second?
Second and second.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Okay.
I strenuously.
All right, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
These guys again.
What?
These guys again, the other one. And we started only at 9.
Yeah, I know. Once you start, you can't stop.
All right. You guys can come in and sit down. He's just taking a break. Yeah.
Evening.
How you doing?
Happening, gents.
How things in Plymouth?
Great.
Good?
Nice day down there.
You know Sarah Stearns?
Yeah.
My niece.
Really? Yeah. She works for Beals and Thomas, yeah. I know that Stearns family owns all the bogs, too, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up with Willie.
Okay.
Big Will, as they call him. He died.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Recently?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
Okay, yeah. He's famous for all the commercials.
What? Oh, yeah.
All the commercials of the golf course. Those are.
We all had to get copies of that. That really is their personality,
Yeah.
the whole family. So.
That's a great spot there.
What course?
Souther's Marsh.
Oh.
It's built on an old cranberry bog. It's kind of a target golf.
Oh, so not my kind of golf. All right.
You're not allowed to go get your balls in the bog, so they collect and donate to Boys and Girls Club, I think. And
We
collect
didn't
thousands.
see you for long.
What?
We didn't see them for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
We're back again.
They were hiding in the back room from you, Karsten.
Oh?
All right, this is our 810, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No worries.
Lot 3, 20 Fisk Hill Road and 30 Main Street, Berry Farm Road, continued notice of intent, construction of a 68 manufactured housing community, DEP file number 300-1156. All right.
Good evening. So we submitted some supplemental materials. Do you want me to just walk through those revisions?
You put up the,
Do you want me to put those
Yeah, if you
concept
don't
plans
mind.
up? Yeah.
Please. So we took into consideration all the feedback we got at the last meeting and made several revisions to minimize intrusions into the 100-foot or the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. I'll just walk you through all those. We also submitted a copy of the declaration of restriction to be submitted to town council for review. That email from Fish and Game. But the intent with these revisions, we're going to finalize the design and the stormwater management report for
submission by the end of the month, by the end of next week. Submit that to the planning board and to Concom as well. There's a planning board meeting on May 9th that they're going to vote to close the meeting. John Shevlin will have completed his peer review in advance of that. And also, just to give an update, I didn't mention it in the letter, but they did go out there and do all the additional perk tests, which will be included in the stormwater report. So all those locations for the rain gardens, including the larger basin, I think there was a total of 3.
Yeah, there's 3 in the larger basin, which John had said at the last meeting, definitely do some there, but we ended up going, I think it was like a total of 34, 35. We did one in each of the infiltrating rain basins.
So we'll have that information for the next meeting.
Okay.
Do you mind getting that pointer?
Sure.
So thanks. So the revisions we made up along, this is Road D, this is the E-Series vernal pool here, with the 2 lots located within the outer 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. If you recall out in the field, the limit of work did creep down slope a little bit, and what the revisions involved is reducing the size of these 2 dwellings and removing garages and pushing everything further away from the buffer, the resource area, tightening up that limit of work. So here's the old limit of work. The new red is the proposed grading. So it takes it all off of those steeper grades that we saw out in the field. And that significantly reduces the permanent alteration within the 200-foot down to 5,290 square feet. The rain gardens have been pulled back. The retaining wall in the back portion of this lot right here has been eliminated. And the regrading has been significantly reduced. And again, it gets everything off of those back steeper slopes that we saw out in the field.
What's from the toe of the slope to the,
what's the setback?
about 100?
It's exactly 100 feet from the wetland boundary. From the vernal pool boundary, I don't have a specific number, but I think it's probably on the order of...
I thought that was the toe of the slope.
Yeah, for the revised, yeah. It pulled back about, I think that's probably on the order of like 25 feet plus, maybe 30 feet back.
Oh, that's 25, yeah, so it's about 25.
So where's the vernal pool?
Right down here. This is the vernal pool boundary.
And so where do you come in? From here? Or?
Oh, it's,
This is a,
yeah, this is the
other side,
portion of it.
Kristen.
It's down below. It would be
Oh,
off screen here. It would be where the road comes down. We'll get to,
it's
yeah.
coming from there.
Do you want to start with
What we're used to
where the
seeing,
roadway comes
Karsten,
in?
this is flipped.
Oh,
This is the last area.
the philosopher.
They don't want to make
but-
it easy on you.
I know.
Want me to go to we'll go up the roadway?
Yeah, we'll go
Yeah,
up
so
the
that way
roadway.
yeah, that'd be easier, I'm sure.
I think that would be the last sheet. Thanks, Becky. So yeah, here's where we come in off of the cul-de-sac. So
This is the bridge.
yeah, this is where our crossing structure is and the habitat corridor we're providing. So based on some of the feedback we got here at the last meeting is this outlet has been relocated. It was over here. We moved it further over in that direction, about as far as it can go. And it's located 150 linear feet away from the A-Series, southerly A-Series vernal pool. And so just to note that, so this rain garden, the larger rain garden behind these units, any discharge from these level spreaders, and the intent of the level spreader is to dissipate and spread out the flow so it's not a concentrated discharge. Actually, based on topography, any discharge is not going towards the vernal pool. It's going further to the north, away from the vernal pool. And just off page is where the intermittent stream starts that flows down to the north. So, you know, I think improving that setback will just help ensure the protection of the vernal pool even more so. I guess if we go to the next page. So at the end of Road B, we made significant.
So this is the vernal pool that's on the,
Yeah, so the roadway continues up like this, and this is the spur road. The wetland system in that valley continues here, and this is where the vernal pool starts to pick up in this location. And again, this is an intermittent stream system where there's spotted salamander breeding activity within the flooded confines of the stream channel, kind of basically any areas where there's been uprooting trees and there's little pockets of standing water. But a lot of the egg masses just rest on the bottom of the surface and just below water levels. But, so what we proposed for revisions here, the retaining wall along the back portion of those two lots is removed. We've eliminated this lot altogether and significantly revised the grading here in red to pull everything closer towards the cul-de-sac. This unit has been reduced in size, the garage has been eliminated, and it's been shifted closer towards the cul-de-sac. And what that effectively does, it takes all the permanent alteration outside of the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. So there's no permanent alteration within the buffer to the northerly A-series vernal pool. The rain garden, which you see here in red, which is going to be finalized, has been sited outside that 200-foot buffer. There's a little bit of regrading that will extend into the 200-foot, but that is all proposed to be revegetated and left to naturalize and become fully wooded. And then going up the road, the next sheet, or the prior sheet, that's where it hooks into Road D here in this cul-de-sac, and the edits, revisions we made at the end of the cul-de-sac to pull everything off of the East Series 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone. And so what that brings us to is a cumulative alteration within the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone of 17,490 square feet, which is 0.4 of an acre, or 3.6% of the cumulative 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone, in comparison to what we're protecting. Again, that 11.02 acres. We are also proposing to add another tree per lot to be planted. That brings up the total of planted trees to 134. And you know, we feel that the proposed revisions address the commission's comments and feedback and significantly that reduce that cumulative disturbance in the 200-foot buffer. I don't know if you want to add anything or turn over to
No,
questions.
just on the Road D, I just did a quick measurement, so the original grading that we had was.
This Road B?
No, Road D, what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
Where that original retaining wall was, it was 105 to 110 feet away from the vernal pool. With the new grading, we're about 140 feet.
And
From 105 to 104?
40.
40.
Okay, all right.
So 30 to 35 feet,
Yeah.
How big are the lot sizes again? Are they quarter acre?
7,500 feet, 75 feet of frontage, 100 foot depth.
So that's quarter acre?
Yeah, roughly.
And the whole back of those even the regraded areas would be put into the declaration restriction for long-term protection.
And you're counting the back of those lots as part of the protected area in the 11 acres?
Well, actually, not in that instance, because that number hasn't changed. I think we may need to, we haven't revised the open space based on that, so it's going to slightly expand a little beyond 11.02 acres, now that you mentioned that. So again, eliminated a lot, made a lot of significant revisions to the plan to pull away from the buffer and minimize the amount of alteration. Again, we're down to 0.4 of an acre cumulatively, or 3.6% of that cumulative 200-foot buffer.
And what was it before?
5.6, I believe.
So-
5.4. 5.4%.
Oh.
Sorry.
So the,
0.4 acre.
Went 5.4 down to 3.6.
so the permanent,
40% reduction, okay.
the permanent disturbance in the 200-foot vernal pool buffer you're saying is how much of an acre?
0.4 of an acre.
4/10?
Previously, it was 0.6 of an acre, so we reduced it by.
Yeah, just looking at the plan, though, if you look at like the lot size, if each one of those lots is like a 1/4 acre, and then you look at the disturbance there, and then on the other sheet, it just seems more than that.
The lots are less than 1/4 of an acre.
Yeah, the
Maybe
like
that's
point-
why, because it's hard to see that that's a 1/4 acre, and then if you add, like, if you just visually look at the disturbance there, and then with what's down below, it seems like it's more than what one of these lot sizes are. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to like visualize it, I guess. It just doesn't seem like it's. So
Those
maybe
lots
that,
are less than 1/4 of an acre.
okay, maybe that's why then.
But you couldn't get this out of the 200-foot zone.
You know, I took one of the plans, God forbid which one it was, because there's been a lot of them. And I marked it up, and I took houses out to try and see if I could get it out of the 200-foot and get it out of the 100-foot. And I'm not an engineer, I was able to produce this project out of the buffer zones and produce 53 houses.
Or reducing it by another 14 houses.
Yeah, I think that's what it, I didn't want to say that because I wasn't sure of what.
Yeah.
And it would seem to me that if you could do that, and you guys are better at this than I am, that, you know, it would be a game breaker.
It's like what we talked about at previous meetings. It
I know.
significantly changes.
I know, but you told me to tell you, and I'm telling you. If you pull, if,
That would be pulling it completely out of, when you say the 200
200 and-
wetland buffer you're talking as well?
yeah, and the wetland buffer was 5 houses. And you'd have to go look at it, but, and 8 of them were in the 200-foot. And reasonable use, I know I keep saying it to you guys, but that's what we're required, we're here to protect the wetlands and the water for the residents of Sturbridge. The reasonable use factor, this is a clear example of it. It's more than reasonable use. And if you designed it down, I mean, as I say, 14 houses, that's what you said it was, that would pull it out totally. And speaking to Eric, this is a large project with a great deal of destruction. You know, and I'm not saying that in a critical fashion. I'm just saying that's what it is. It's a terrible lot. It's all bone. And on one hand, you'll tell me that, you know, the rain gardens are going to be on flat areas, and then in another part of the dissertation, you'll tell me that you're working with the contours, which you'll tell me that you're doing both. but it's not the way, to create flat areas of 2-foot stones and whatever. I really think that, and then I have a problem with we're talking about a testing program for the vernal pools. And when I say a problem, I don't mean problem with any of your work. I'm just saying that you're saying like for 3 years we test 3 or 4 years, let's test the vernal pools. And you're saying it's going to take you 10 years to build all of these houses. So there's going to be, I'm just saying what you said. So we're talking about stopping watching the vernal pools after 4 years, and we're going to continue to construct on the site. And you know as well as I do what construction does. So, I mean, and then we've talked about forest strips, and we have none. Right? None, zero, nada. No forest strips to cut across, not even one. I mean, you can put one across. I know it'd take a couple houses. This is the stuff that we've been saying, and you're saying that we're not saying. So I wanted to say some of it just to, and I don't mean it in any, you guys are great from a lot of ways. But that, and one house, then to come back and say, well, this is over 55 houses, I'm going to put one tree in the front yard and one tree in the backyard. How long is a person who's over 55 going to live? It's still going to be a potted plant by the time they die. I mean, we need trees. And you guys are taking all the trees out. All the trees.
We're giving you 80 acres, though.
I know. No, as I say, I'm giving you the feedback on, and that's fantastic, But we really need to protect the wetland and the vernal pools. And if we don't do that, we're not doing our job. It's as simple as that. And this project has, this is, you come back with this on a given night, and you went in and you took out a couple houses a couple meetings ago, don't quote me on when it was. But it seems like it's a struggle. And the other thing is we asked for you to look at the three-sided culvert, and we know it's a better culvert. We know it works better for wildlife. And you guys go, oh, bridge is $300,000, and we're going to go with the square pipe. And you don't give us an answer. You don't say, this is, and the fact that you tell us that the sewer pipe's going to be going down through at 4 feet or whatever it needs to be at when it goes through there, and it's going between the vernal pool, and what kind of result are we going to get? If you go up there and look at what Matty's having done on what he's got up there, it's like a nightmare. Are you guys going to be blasting every 10 feet?
No.
Huh? No.
That was the point of doing the first 26 test pits that we did. There will be some blasting up there, sure, in some areas, but that's, so two things. We have the low flow pump system for the sewers, so we were able to keep all of our sewer lines up higher than if it was gravity fed, and then because these are all on pads, we're obviously not doing foundations, so we don't have to go 8 feet into the ground.
Yeah.
That was another reason why we chose this type of development, because we do know that there is rock up there, and obviously I've been seeing what Matt's.
Yeah. The other thing off the back side, when we were up on that hill, looking down at the vernal pool, and that was where the set of houses was going to go. That was easily an 8% slope, and it was easily within 500 feet of that vernal pool. And I mentioned it, it's like 8% hasn't been considered.
Well, that's why we pulled that back off of that slope to the flat.
Yeah. Okay.
in that location.
So what other stuff?
So, but so why can't you, so why are you staying inside the 200 feet there? You took out the houses on the other side, the 200 feet, one pool zone, but you stay within 140 feet.
Because we felt it was a good balance between, we understand everything that Mr. Goodwin just said. You know, we have tried to take all the comments, as Brian said earlier, and progress this forward and make changes. You know, but there is that, as we talked before, the balance and the art of negotiation of, I feel that we have done a lot that the board has asked. Maybe not everything that you're looking for, but I think that we have done a lot. And I feel that now with this project, with where we're at now, it's providing that housing option for the town, and it's doing it in a way that does protect the wetlands and the vernal pools, and I'd say more than any other project that we have been able to find in town.
And just to put it in perspective too, in a numbers breakdown, the amount of disturbance in the 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone is 5,000, a little over 5,000 square feet, in comparison to everything else in the 200-foot buffer zone there. Sorry, Eric.
That's okay.
Gotcha.
You give me the head, not the eye.
Is 123,000 square feet that we're protecting. So that's 4.3% of that 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone that we're protecting in comparison to what we're protecting. I view that as a de minimis alteration and not a significant adverse effect.
The alterations de minimis, or?
The alterations de minimis, yeah. 5,000 out of 123,000 is minimal.
I'll make a de minimis change.
You know, I know in the staff report, Becky had provided some examples for projects, because I know Roy had asked for examples. And 2 single-family dwelling projects were provided. We did find another one recently that I can just pass along to the board and email around. We can discuss it the next meeting.
What's this?
This is the Holiday Inn Panera development up New Boston Road.
Yep.
The new restaurant that's being constructed.
Yep.
So yeah, I went back and looked at
But they had the Panera.
my tenure here. So this project is before I was here, which it's not easy to research before based off the way the records are. So we don't have a way to search for vernal pool projects. So I wasn't trying to withhold anything.
I
Just want
totally
to state that.
This is an example of what I'm talking about with reasonable use. You got 160 acres, okay? They tore down the inn and put up a new one. And the vernal pool, we kept outside of the 100-foot buffer.
But the entire 100 to 200 foot is now developed and disturbed, eliminated.
Well,
from-
there was all parking lot before.
Not associated with the
And
new
it's not-
restaurant.
And the other thing is, that this is not a game of who's on the, you know, it's a board, okay? And the board changes, vernal pool values change, we get more information on things. That, what we will, if you had this, if you were doing that parking lot, we absolutely would have allowed, it would have been a reasonable use. You guys are squashing your project next to the vernal pools and the wetland intentionally, and that's not a reasonable use. You could just slide it over. And that's the way, what you should do. And as I say, you could go down to 53 houses and get the heck out of it. I'm not going to repeat myself. And get the heck out of it. And that would be a reasonable use.
I guess we can argue what reasonable use is, but I mean, I only brought this up because the question was asked at the last meeting for an example. And here's a situation where essentially everything was built between the 100 to 200 foot vernal pool buffer zone, and they worked right up to the 100-foot buffer zone. So comparatively, there's a lot more disturbance.
Other thing, how far were they from the lake?
There's a vernal pool in the way, so they couldn't encroach much closer.
So, but my point is, it was orchestrated because of reasonableness.
That's, I guess, personal interpretation, but
It's not an interpretation. I mean, that's,
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah,
I don't
I mean, I want to thank you for the work that's been done. I realize that there's clearly a difference in opinion, and I will respectfully, hopefully respectfully disagree with each other on this. I think that, you know, we have done a tremendous job in going over this project over and over and over again. I think that you guys just need to make a decision on whether or not there is enough appetite on this board to move forward with your project as it stands, or you need to make some pretty dramatic changes in order to meet the appetites of, you know, some of the members on the board. I think that a 3% impact is reasonable for the overall benefits that we're getting here. I believe that 200-foot buffer zone is well within our purview to evaluate, you know, whether or not this is reasonable. I think it's reasonable, and you know, the reality is we are getting a significant parcel of land that's going to be in perpetual protection as an offset to that. So I get the concerns. I listened to the residents that were concerned about their property being washed out. I also listened to our third-party reviewer who talked about the rain gardens and their anticipated effectiveness. Our third-party reviewer.
did you hear what he said? He said he'd never seen one. He saw 'em in
But
the
he
book.
said that based on what he has seen, they're going to work. You know, what do we want from? He's
I know.
our third-party reviewer.
I'm only I'm not, yeah, I'm
You know,
only challenging what he said.
Right, okay. So if he was concerned, I asked him if he was concerned, he wasn't concerned, right? You know, and were we going to be impacting greater the residents adjacent to this property that have concerns over their lots based on this, the calculations and the stipulations? No. So, you know, I feel like that this is a reasonable project. I feel like it's a good project. I get, would it be better if it was 53 from the standpoint of that? Yeah, but then it's never gonna happen, right, from an economic viability standpoint, and maybe that's the point, I don't know. But, you know, the reality is the project at 71, now down to 67, seems like it's reasonable to me, so.
Before we, and I don't mean to be, can you update us on the open space as far as where is the access going to be for residents?
So the way that the email, because I saw that Becky had put a comment in there, do you have that plan? That you can put up with the red and the blue?
Yeah, I got that, I think that's buried in like the NOI application.
Probably the original notice, yeah.
It's file number 384 on this project. Oh, that's it?
That's just this NOI.
Oh, okay. Let's not bring that up.
Yeah, probably towards the end.
Let's just not forget to get, we have two members online here, get their comments too here. It's Barbara's on.
Did the town council already look over?
This is,
Who's-
No, the open space.
Who's
No, they haven't.
speaking
They
now?
just got- I think they just got it, right? Town council?
What are you talking about?
The open space that they proposed to give to the,
That's a declaration.
Oh, here's the plan. Well, it's just, it's just so much on it, it's just taking a while to load.
So that the declaration of restriction that we're proposing would cover all of the red, all of the blue. And then, in short order, we will work with the state, and Matt will work with the state to donate all of this red, which James in the email said that they would accept it right now, essentially, because it ties into additional land, I think, right here, that the state already owns. Then he does reference that the state would be open to taking this blue area on our Lot 3 at a later date, assuming that we give some kind of easement for the state, because there's not enough room to create a fifth legal lot. So through conversations with James, he said, well, would you donate this part of the blue on your Lot 3? I said, it's, for consideration at a later date, not right away with all of the red, because we'll be working in here and doing grading, obviously not right in the blue, but, so if we did ever donate this blue area to the state, James believes they would take it as long as we gave an easement, just a 10-foot wide walking easement. So people could come and park on Berry Farms Road and then access this land all the way through here.
So there would be no
Parking lot
access for residents?
They would come in wherever they come in now to the state land. Actually, when we were up there doing the test pits, I ran into a gentleman that he said he parked at a gate in Southbridge, comes down through the Commonwealth land, is how they access it now. So with this red piece, that's how they would get to it. If we did eventually donate our blue area to the state, which we're open to doing at a later date, that's where the state would require we give them a 10-foot walking easement right here.
But we're not proposing any formal parking or trail system at this time. It's just going to remain undisturbed.
I don't think the state, we're talking with James, I don't think he wanted any type of formal trails or anything like that. He wanted to really keep this area open for passive hunting,
Well, I wasn't talking about, I was just talking about access. I can't drive up into your property and then, pull my gun out of the back and go.
Yeah, that's not going to be advertised.
What?
It's not going to be
It's
advertised.
not happening very well, but it's not
advisable.
So if you don't donate the blue, you would put a conservation restriction on it. That's what.
Yes, yeah, we were, all of the blue, if it didn't end up getting donated to the state at a later date, will always stay protected.
Did they express any interest in this section up here since it's not
No, because
connected?
it's not attached to anything.
You would move forward with a formal conservation restriction for that or some type of formal protection? Is that what we proposed? Okay.
I mean, the declaration restriction, the way that we have it set up is that it's a perpetual document, that it can be re-recorded every 20 years. As needed, the town has enforcement rights on that they can record it if there's some failure by the applicant. But effectively, I mean, that is a permanent restriction. And, I mean, if the town wants a conservation restriction and is willing to hold it, then we'd certainly go down that route as well. But the declaration restriction is going to lock up the land.
So just like a regular deed restriction, right? I just want to make sure, so when I talk to town council about it,
Yeah, I mean, certainly we'd welcome any feedback from them.
Okay,
but,
okay. I just want to make sure I understand, so I didn't have time to go through it all the details of it yet myself, so.
Well, Becky, or Ed, I'd like to just comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't on the board when the original application came through. I've sat through several hearings on Blueberry Hill Estates. I walked the property. It appears to me that the applicant continues to, try to appease the board with all the things that we've asked them to do. They've come back, modified the plan. They've lost lots. They've, backed away from the aggressive slopes. And, there is an economic element that goes along with any subdivision application. They've received waivers from the fire department. You've got a smaller road than a typical roadway network. We're allowing this access for animals and reptiles to cross between two vernal pools. Whether they actually do that or not, I don't know. But overall, I think they've made significant strides to provide a plan that meets their financial commitment to it, but also meets the things that we're looking for, and that is protection of the wetlands. So at this point, I'm feeling a lot better about the project than when I first saw it.
Roy, any comments? You went out for a beer, I think.
No, he came up, you put yourself back on. You're on mute, Roy.
Right.
Right.
I just won't work. All
There you
right,
go.
pilot error. All right, so I agree with the comments, great strides, thank you.
you speak a
My
little louder?
concern is, can you hear me okay?
A little louder if you can do it.
Okay, so my concern is the precedent that we may set of the 67 homes that are there. If any one of those homeowners came with an application to build, I think we would take them to task for where they're trying to build. I think we're too close to the buffer. That's my big concern. So of those 67 homes, how many are inside the buffer, whether it's the vernal pool or the stream or whatever we're trying to protect? And the other thing is you have, some extra land there. Why can't we spread that out a little bit more? Take it out of the protected areas.
Roy, I just had a question to that comment you made to the applicant. They're not going to own the land, is that? They're going to own their unit and not own the land that the unit sits on. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's just a, it's a notional.
Are they allowed
notional
to build?
proposal.
Do they have rights to modify their lots, to answer your question? Because I don't know. You raised a good point.
Now, yeah, what I was the thread that I was trying to pull on is if any one of those individual homeowners, say it's not a big development, and pick any one of those lots inside the red line, we would certainly take them to task.
It's saying if a different
And I
project
don't know
came in,
how
I
we-
guess.
So I guess that's
don't
where I
know
would
how we
disagree with you
can-
on that, Roy, respectfully, because I think that if it was an individual landowner coming in on one project within the buffer zones that we're dealing with right now, we would have been done with this last year. I think that it's the scope of the project that is making people uncomfortable, not the individualistic nature, because that's been part of my challenge with this entire thing is the size and scope of it. Are we applying a different narrative? Because I can't think of a situation where within this between 100 and 200 foot vernal pool or not, and I realize that vernal pools are different. I'm not trying to diminish that, but I can't think of one project that we have stopped dead in its tracks between 100 and 200 feet. And there are different things, right? So, and because that's the Sturbridge wetland bylaw, for the most part. I know that there's some wetlands that are protected beyond the 100 foot. And, there's nothing at least from what I've seen, that is, inside of 100 feet in this situation. So really, we're talking about Sturbridge, not Massachusetts. And I realize that we are Sturbridge, but the reality is that I would find it hard to believe that a single-family home that came in under these similar circumstances wouldn't have flown through in one night, maybe with a couple of changes.
Anybody else?
I mean, I appreciate that you actually did the changes. I mean, there's no way that you can put in a trail of trees in some sense and push it out a little. I mean, there were 4 houses right on this side now, or there's 7 houses on the, to get you out of the complete 200.
It goes back to what we had said before, not to rehash it, but it changes the economics of the project. As far as the trees or the pathways between some of the homes, they are smaller lots, as we've talked about. We have to remember that we have all our rain gardens in between that's acting as our stormwater. Also, with the grading, with the cuts and the fills, I mean, there wouldn't be any way to save any trees. They would end up dying, you know, if we tried to save trees in between homes. For this type of project, unfortunately, that's not something that we can do. You know, and that's why we added the second tree, to double the number of trees that we will be re-adding. Plus, on top of that, we are gonna have all the rain gardens too. So they're not trees, but they are garden, you know, vegetated areas.
I think we've gone long enough tonight.
So we have to wait for the town council now, what's the?
Well, I think their plan is to revise their plans, come back with all the information. Right, they gotta do the stormwater and look for a vote from the board.
But,
Yeah,
but by that time, we have some better sense of the donated land and what town council says about that, or?
I would hope so.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going, as Brian said, we're going in May 9th to the planning board, so everything has to be done. All the plans have to be revised, stormwater done, peer reviewed by John Shevlin for that. So we would be submitting all of that information to the commission as well for the May 11th meeting. We would anticipate coming back in, seeing if there's any final questions, you know, that may come up. Pete doesn't anticipate anything really to change beyond what we've showed tonight. And then, yeah, we would ultimately be looking for a vote the next meeting. I don't think we would be looking for it on the May 11th. I think that may be a little soon because we're just going to be submitting the plans that night, or for that meeting.
Okay, it sounds like a plan. You guys, you realize you can't, we have a bylaw that says you can't use salt in the buffer zone or anywhere near any of our wetlands. Did you read that?
Yep. Within the 200 foot, unless it's because of public safety.
I didn't see it unless it's public safety.
I have it printed out.
Yeah.
If you want me to read it. I mean, going back
I didn't mean to bring it up I just was making you aware.
Yeah,
Okay.
going back to the project that Brian had brought up, the hotel, I mean, we printed out the order of conditions. We didn't see any restrictions on salt within there either, so. I assume that's because of public safety being a commercial area with a hotel.
Oh, the Walmart Plaza is a non-salt area, the whole plaza. There are other things to use besides salt. Not that I'm aware of.
We have to keep, we do have, you know, the 8% grade of the main road going up. That's our big concern.
Yeah.
You know, is why salt does unfortunately do a better job of maintaining the roadways.
Killing off critters.
Well, protecting the safety of the residents.
Okay. We have a resident, so sorry to keep you waiting.
Good evening. My name is John Swerbley. I'm here to speak on the current proposed project, Lot 320 Fitskill Road. We don't know if the developers are going to fill this housing area with residents. We don't know. No one knows. Is the impact on the vernal pools worth this project? That we know. Article 5365-56E of the Sturbridge Wetlands Bylaw states that any work within the 200-foot buffer zone to a vernal pool shall not cause a significant adverse impact to any function of a vernal pool. It shall not result in a measurable decrease in extant wildlife populations or biological community composition, structure, and species richness of the site or in the vicinity, exclusive of the present or future state of adjacent or nearby property, or impaired, damage, or reduce in value for wildlife purposes, identified specific habitat features. The Commission shall take into account indirect effects, including but not limited to effects of nearby human activities on a case-by-case basis. The bylaw is intended to use the home rule authority of this municipality to protect additional resource areas for additional values with additional standards and procedures stricter than those of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. I ask you to ask yourselves, what precedent, if approved, is this going to take? How many more projects will come before the commission seeking relief from the 200-foot town bylaw and 100-foot state regulatory zone? How many projects before you have redeveloped and met the bylaws? The bylaw is the bylaw. It is there to be enforced. Bylaws, in a layman's terms, is a contract between the residents of Sturbridge and the town administrators. If bylaws didn't exist, there would be no rules, regulations, checks and balances. It would be a free-for-all. There'd be no permits for electrical, no inspections. It'd be a free-for-all. If a resident doesn't like a bylaw, or a matter of fact, a law, there's an avenue for changing that. You propose to change the bylaws through proper administrative procedures. Just like to change a law or add a law in the state, there's a procedure. If you don't like the town, for example, if you don't like the town bylaw with the wakes, where no person shall operate any boat or other vehicle in such a manner as to create a wake during periods of high water, you would submit a change to it. You wouldn't violate it. With that being said, this decision shouldn't be about economic development and financial commitment. Mr. Gasper, you said that you are the stewards of the land. Please be a steward of the land. Members of the commission, I urge you to enforce the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you.
Continuation.
If if we could go back to Roy real quick, I guess I was a little confused on some of the questions he was asking. I couldn't really hear some of it either. I just want to make sure that we've addressed
Roy,
concerns that Roy had brought up.
Are you satisfied, Roy?
Let's continue it. I go back, I appreciate what Eric had to say, that we wouldn't necessarily disapprove of the single homeowner, but we just heard from the audience what our charter is, and my concern is how many home sites are we approving that would be in violation of that bylaw? And I'm just kind of, if I'm one of these engineering firms, I'm looking at the discussion and looking at the decision process of the board, and how do you approve a project like this with all of these homes as I see it, and I could be wrong, push back, that are inside the protected area. I don't know what the number is, but you get 67 homes. Is it half? Are we approving 30 homes inside the protected area?
I think it's around 13. 13 of these are.
Well, there seem to be only.
I don't think we want, yeah.
When we're talking the protected area, are we talking the vernal pool or 200-foot vernal pool buffer, or are we talking the 200-foot wetland?
Or the 100-foot wetland, not 200-foot wetland.
Not the 100-foot wetland?
Yeah. All right, I'd like to continue this. All right.
Do you plan to come to May 11th, or did you want to continue to the June 1st meeting?
You guys want to see us?
Is there anything new?
No,
There's not going to be anything new, probably not.
You going to have information for that meeting, or?
Yeah, I think we'd like to come back. We'll have the stormwater review.
Stormwater will be peer reviewed. Pete will be able to come to that meeting too.
Oh, we get to see Pete. Well, then, there we go.
Hopefully we'll have some feedback from
We won't
town
be back
council.
next door, it'll be like a different room.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing until May 11th.
Second.
Any discussion?
We're good for tonight.
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Carsten Stuber in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor?
Thanks.
Likewise in favor.
Hey, Roy.
Ed,
Roy, you want to vote?
Thank you for your comments.
I voted.
Roy,
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
can you hear me?
I get you loud and clear, how me?
Now you're just messing with him.
No, I'm not.
Roy, are you okay with the continuance?
Where are you, Roy?
Sure.
In no man's
Tip
land.
of Cape Cod.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Correspondence.
Yeah, make it quick.
71 Mashapon and agent. We have two more, guys.
Oh, what?
Two?
Two more items, yes.
What?
Please.
Just quick.
Oh, I thought we can go home now.
No. Only when Becky
I
says.
know we got Mashapog, but what else have we got?
Right, so number 18 on here, we have 71 Mashpog, then we have just agent report, I just have a couple things. I'll spare you all the stuff, you know?
All right, go for it.
71 Mashpog Road, we had a conversation last time, they were to submit some information on why they felt that maybe they weren't subject to, you know, the wetland regulations, both, you know, local and state. We received a letter this Monday. You know, we hope to get some information from them ahead of time so that I could take that information and get some advisement to bring back to you. We didn't have time to do that because we received it so late. So I would like to be able to continue to get some advisement to bring back to you on that.
Oh, this is the junkyard?
Yeah, this is the junkyard.
You already responded on that.
So I didn't have a chance to digest it.
Yeah.
But I certainly want to dig into that and give it its due. But one of the things that was in the letter was referencing continuity of the permits as a justification.
Yep.
I'm not saying that this is the only thing I'm gonna wanna look into, because I haven't had a chance to digest it, but if you could ask the applicant, or not the applicant, if you could ask them
Okay.
to bring back proof of the continuous permitting.
Yep.
Just as backup to their claim in the letter, I for one would appreciate seeing that.
Okay.
I mean, I quickly looked at it. I thought they didn't respond to the main concern, which was
Agreed. The back
there
section.
was the area that supposedly was cut and where they have a new, according, if I understood it right, there was this from 1 year to the other, it seemed to have been cleared.
Agreed.
And new cars had been there, and they just talked about the vegetation around the house or something like that. They never really seemed to address the main issue.
Yeah, right. They just, it was bait and switch.
So it didn't seem as if there was no change, there was a dramatic change from our perspective, and they didn't address that at all.
Agreed.
So you're gonna get with legal and,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Eric, do you think that we have a right to force them, like, they don't have a project before us right now, do we have a right to force them to show us that, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know what we have a right to. I'm just reading, and quickly perusing the letter. It looked like one of the defenses that they were making of their continued use of this property and not needing to bring it to us was that continued permitting. Now, I don't know if that's a high enough bar to get to, but if they were the ones who pointed it out, clearly they believe that that is something. So they must have proof of this stuff, right? If they're making the claim in the letter, I mean, that'd be kind of foolish.
Are you asking me that question?
Well, it would be, I'm just looking at it, through the prism of, if I was gonna make a claim like that in a letter to us, I would make sure that I have my ducks in a row and that I would have that. So that's why I'm just asking for the validation, you know, trust but verify. I trust that they have done their homework. I would just like to see it. And I don't know if that's the standard, but since they brought it up, I would just like to see it.
I guess I would just add too about the work around the house. Really went through our local regulations, and there's, you know, bits and pieces of activities that don't require review. That was kind of taken and interpreted and given that decision. I guess I don't agree with that, but I would still go to town council about that.
The applicant also said in the public meeting that.
Right, they would file an RDA. The engineer said, right, we grubbed the whole site. That's not exempt. So I don't agree with that. You know, that is the minor part of the property that could easily be resolved, but they're kind of changing their story here a little bit too, and kind of taking information and kind of jumbling different things that might meet some exemptions, but
Not looking to hassle people, but if you're gonna claim something, I'd like proof of it.
So what are our action items on that, besides the one thing that Eric sounds like? Are we doing anything else?
I'm gonna provide that letter to council here and get some
Yeah.
feedback for the board for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just quickly for agent report, we've got a lot of little violation, medium violation things going on that we're trying to stay on top of, but it just seems like every other day there's something new happening out there. So for the next meeting, we're hoping that we're gonna have some people coming in to kind of, present some restoration plans to help kind of work towards addressing those, so.
Did I hear somebody tell me that there was a bunch of trees taken down behind the pizza joint on Route
Yep.
20 near the jug handle?
Yep, that was yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so that's on our radar.
Yeah, yeah, and then, for those who were on the board, Eric, I don't even know if you were on the board, the St. Anne Cemetery, where they were stockpiling all the excavated material, went out there, because somebody actually had contacted us about discarding of, cut grass and, plants and, flags and debris on a property. So I went out there, and they're stockpiling in the area that I think we had told them not to, so I'm reaching out to them right now to kind of get that back. We had resolved everything, that guy retired, there's someone new, so working on that. I was notified that the 413 Main, they did send a letter saying they did the cleanup of the stream behind the new cheese place, that parking lot right there. We had followed up with them because we hadn't heard from them. In their enforcement order, the extended deadline was expiring. So they immediately got out there to do that. It was a quick one-day thing. They used a crane, I guess, and were able to load the material to easily get it out of there because it was a steep slope, remember, to get down there. So they tackled that. I need to go check on it. Haven't had a chance. A couple members, we had stopped at a property at 71 Brookfield Road where we had another issue of work occurring without permitting. Been working with them, having them come to the next meeting. 2931 Brookfield Road, a site that we had a determination at before, existing commercial site where the compatible canine was.
Oh, yeah.
Working with them because they've, minor thing, put up a fence, but they're parking near the wetland, so working with them to get them to come in to, pull back away, parking away from the wetland there and file for the fence, so working on that as well.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, and then, like we were saying earlier, in Ed's aware, we were tasked with administering that alum treatment project. So that's not only the 319 grant with the matching funds and the reporting to DEP, but we recently put the contract out for bid for that and working through the contract process because they want to get that done this spring. So we're working on that a lot. So it's very busy in the office right now.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to say to Carl and Dimmers, but if he's trying to get that done in late May, early June, well, town meeting isn't until early June,
Well,
so
I
it's not
think
gonna get done that quick.
He misspoke. That was-
Yeah, I think he meant Board of Selectmen
Board of
meeting. The Board of
Selectmen.
Selectmen have to authorize the contract. I think he just
okay.
misspoke when he said town meeting. I know, I thought about that afterwards. I'm like, what is he talking about, town meeting? But that's all.
That's it. Karsten, take us away.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roy and Ted are already on vacation. They're having a margarita.
Oh, absolutely.
Where are you? Where's Roy?
I'm in Provincetown.
Nice.
I'm waiting for the pilgrims.